Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the cool half of the broadcast. This is the official English language stream of the Overwatch Pacific Championship. My name is Matt Pixie Carroll, and joining me here on this comfy couch that I cannot partake in is, of course, Kevin Averwalker and Matt Smite Ross. Gentlemen, we have just seen Machi picking up some much-needed wins, shall we say, and we are now going to see team they just beat, DeToNator, come up against Hong Kong Attitude. How are we feeling about this couch?
I think I'm definitely feeling the couch. It's lets me just sprawl out a little bit. So
I'm just a little bit
sprawl.
I'm a little bit tense because DeToNator is not looking too hopeful here. I'm a little bit worried for them, seeing as they've just come off a loss, a pretty crushing loss at that. So it's hard to relax when there's a team that's got to fight for their very tournament lives right now.
But it's got to be pretty easy to relax on that couch, right?
Nah, it is.
Like it's pretty comfortable. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
We're
nice
doing all right.
Soft cushions. I envy the two of you. So, Hong Kong Attitude versus DeToNator. So you're right about DeToNator, yeah, coming off the loss, and I mean Hong Kong Attitude as well are a team that had previously beat DeToNator. So I suppose I want to jump right into the nitty-gritty of this, guys. What do DeToNator.GOLD need to actually do here to pull out a win? And is it even possible?
I think Machi are on a real big rise currently. So, actually, Machi aside, Hong Kong Attitude as well have been on a really nice kind of wave, and these are two teams that are really, I thought were quite close contenders at one point. Now Machi are really close to being contending Hong Kong Attitude. Now for DeToNator, they're still on the they're not going down anymore. They're just already at the bottom, and now they're just kind of skating along. Now going up against Hong Kong Attitude, it's difficult to say what they need here. It just sort of almost seems like they need a lot of things, because Hong Kong Attitude, in my books, are still a fair bit ahead of them in every regard in terms of individual players, mechanical skill, team play, coordination, cohesion, just the whole bag, if it were. Hong Kong Attitude just seem ahead in every regard.
I feel like DeToNator.GOLD can actually come back quite often from fights where they're not usually expected to win. They'll shut down specific ults. They'll actually deal with them. I mean, the most notable ones are like Gravitons and the Tactical Visor combos. Like, they've got Yoshiharu on that, and he's one of the greatest players in the tournament at actually shutting that down with Defense Matrix. So when they're behind, I feel like they're actually better than some of the teams that they've been coming up against. However, it's when they're ahead and when they're expected to win, when they're sitting there with 5 or 6 ultimates and they should win a fight, they just don't seem to pull it out a lot of the time.
So you maybe feel that this is a team that's having a bit of a failure to execute?
I think it's a team that's had a bit of a failure to close out games. Now, I've noted that DeToNator have had opportunities where they have been ahead in the game. They've started strong, they've gotten early advantages, they've gotten early objectives. Now, towards the later part of the game, I guess specifically on control is probably a better example. They failed to close out games where they do lead the other team, and that's kind of been an issue surrounding DeToNator since week 1. So it's something they haven't changed and something they haven't fixed yet.
I mean, they're still losing games. It kind of makes sense that they haven't fixed it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, they won one game. They beat Sun Sister.
It's kind of that's kind of it. That's kind of, if they hadn't beaten Sun Sister, I think DeToNator and Sun Sister, they're sitting in the same sort of spot. So someone was going to have to win that game, and it's unfortunate that so far the only teams that they have been able to beat are kind of each other, and in the case of Sun Sister, not even that yet. So DeToNator do need to be able to get out of this. Right now, we've seen with Machi, they're able to take down top dogs like Flash Wolves. They're now steadily climbing up that ranking. Fireball have also been climbing up their ranking from week 1 to now, to week 3. We're going to see them today. Obviously, they're going to have a tough game against Blank, but Fireball have been on the up and up as well. It's the two Japanese teams, DeToNator and Sun Sister, DeToNator that we're currently speaking of, that are still struggling to climb out of that bottom pit.
Okay, so let's speak to the other half of this matchup in that case. Hong Kong Attitude, we have so far expressed as being a bit of a gate guardian, as it were, to that top 4. And they are looking to beat teams more like AHQ, Flash Wolves, Blank, and now arguably Machi as well. So, given that they are expected to win this, what still can they take out of this matchup in terms of preparing themselves for those next few matches?
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, it's DeToNator are a great team at coming back from behind, right? So if they're able to do that consistently against Hong Kong Attitude, this is going to be good practice for them against. I mean, it's a bit mean to say DeToNator.GOLD are just going to be practice for them, but at the standings right now, Hong Kong Attitude should really take it as practice, right?
It's just a scrim. It just happens to be on the big stage.
Well, I mean, okay, so I'm calling
it's a pretty important scrim.
Yeah, yeah. It's the most important scrim they'll ever play.
I mean, I'm calling it's going to be a 3-0. Like, it's very unlikely DeToNator are going to take a map here, but Hong Kong Attitude, what they need to take from this is not let DeToNator do what they do against a lot of teams, which is shut down your own execution of ults. Because a lot of times, DeToNator actually do identify the win condition of their opposing team, and they move in and actually execute on shutting that part down. It's just when it's on the flip side, and they're the ones with the win condition, and they're ahead, that other teams seem to just walk all over them and stop them using their own win condition. I mean, DeToNator.GOLD, they're great at stopping win conditions. So Hong Kong Attitude can practice that.
So we now have seen sort of where the standings currently lie, and Machi have overtaken Hong Kong Attitude. So I've sort of said already, Machi and Hong Kong Attitude are now both the two teams really fighting to break into that top 4 spot. Most important, that top 3 spot. Let's take a look at the Hong Kong Attitude roster first up. Captain Mango Jai on the off kind of support as well. He's kind of like a flex support. K4, the offensive and flex as well. Jin Kao and a Ting on the tank roles with Shaolin and CQB. CQB being the support. Shaolin's been playing mainly DPS so far in the tournament, so listed as tank, but his Tracer and Genji is probably what he's been known for.
So in light of that, and we can sort of continue this discussion as well with DeToNator, but in light of what we've just seen there, Hong Kong Attitude, I kind of want to touch on something here. We're seeing a lot of triple DPS now coming in, and Blank were very upfront at the end of the last round robin that they feel that's the way to move forward. And last night we were seeing teams like Flash Wolves and AHQ, and also Machi actually picking up that, really finding the way that their team comp could do that triple DPS. Given their inherent flexibility in their roles, do we feel that Hong Kong Attitude are maybe more favored than some of these teams in terms of adopting that triple DPS?
I think Hong Kong Attitude, in Blank's own words, are the team that have most closely been playing what Blank's current strategy and current meta within their own team is. Now, I don't know if every team needs to go for that. I think teams need to be playing towards their own strengths. We saw Flash Wolves experiment last night. I don't think the results were great from that experiment. I think teams need to still be sticking to what their strengths are, regardless of the meta. They can sort of adapt to how the meta, however they can, but if there are certain compositions that you can't run, so for Flash Wolves, that just comes out of triple DPS. I don't think that they can do that. I don't think it's a good idea for them to attempt to change up their lineup so drastically to try and match what Blank are doing. Don't do what Blank are doing. Do what you do and what you do best. I think it's the correct way to go.
Unless it's against Blank, which almost won them the series, right? For Hong Kong Attitude, right?
Well,
I suppose.
That's what Blank said was the biggest issue in their series against them.
The biggest issue was more so the fact that, let's be real, that Blank made a lot of mistakes in that series, regardless.
And I will also just chip in, even admitted themselves they didn't actually adequately prepare for the matchup as well.
I don't think the answer to beating Blank is being Blank. Like, you can have, you can run your game plan, you can execute your game plan and your composition in your team, and if you do that perfectly, you can still have the possibility of beating Blank. I don't necessarily believe that just copying what they're doing is the answer. Like, this is such a flexible team. You're going to keep copying Blank every time they change. You're always going to be one step behind. You just can't do that.
I think you raise a pretty good point there, actually, about, I suppose, that notion of being one step behind. And just to kind of touch on the other part of that I was bringing up there, Flash Wolves being a team that tried out triple DPS and seemed to try out switching off triple DPS when it's your unfavored DPS, right? So I know we've just kind of spoken about how this isn't necessarily a team that has to pick up triple DPS here, Hong Kong Attitude, but certainly with the flexibility that their players possess, do we feel that this is a team that, unlike Flash Wolves, can leave their kind of off DPS on the DPS characters? Yeah,
I think Hong Kong Attitude is the team that has the possibility to be a bit more flexible. They've shown that so far, and I believe they will continue to be able to do that. And in all regards, they should play to their strengths, which so far, in a similar way to Blank, has been that flexibility. If they can really nail that, they can really execute that, and find something comfortable that works consistently, they're going to get a decent amount of mileage off that. At the same time, for a team like Hong Kong Attitude, I feel like they've almost performed a little bit more comfortably on triple DPS than their other compositions. So I also don't want to see Hong Kong Attitude get pigeonholed into this is the only thing they can do, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, right. For you, Smite, could you turn that Winston plushie around? It's angry, and it just feels like it's angry at me. It's kind of looking right at me. No, it's kind of staring at me with this absolute ferocity. That is,
There you go.
That's
That
not
is
the
just
answer.
That didn't work at
unnerving.
all.
That's not actually popped out. Just turn the plushie around, man.
Look fine.
There we go. Thank you. Appreciate it. There we go. That is much better. So, I believe we have just seen the map. We may have seen the map.
Yeah, it was Lijiang Tower.
It was Lijiang Tower.
To
there
no
we go.
one's
surprise.
I actually couldn't see the, yeah, we've seen a whole ton of Lijiang Tower on this first map. I kind of want to go a little bit kind of aside here, not speak about it specifically in this situation. In general, why are we seeing so much Lijiang?
So, I mean, I've talked about it in the previous 2 series where Machi picked it on each round 1 because they were the home team. It's a map where teams are forced to pick different compositions for each separate map. Maps like Oasis and Ilios, you can generally get away with running a similar composition on each one, but on Lijiang Tower, you get brawl comps with a lot of tanks in Control Center. Fire is very prevalent on Gardens, and then you get a lot of dive on Night Market, right? Those are the stronger teams, the most common teams that we're seeing actually happen on each 3 separate maps. So you're at least going to see how a team plays in each of these 3 separate styles. Now, some teams will have their own twist on it. They'll run separate things. Some of them might even run Fire into Night Market, for example. But you're generally going to see a wider variety of team compositions on Lijiang Tower.
Now, I think what I want to say to that is, I don't know if that's a really strong enough reason, being that I think every single one of the control maps has a swing map. And a swing map being, you kind of have 2 out of the 3 stages where you can sort of run similar compositions, and then 1 other stage of the 3 in each control map where you are running something usually quite different. Now for Oasis, that usually comes down to University. For Ilios, that's usually Ruins. On Lijiang, that's Control Center. And on Nepal, that comes to be Sanctum. So there's always the one swing map within a control where you're forced to run. Well, you're not forced to, but typically you're running something vastly different to what you're running on the other 2 maps. So that's something I see as quite broad across all the controls. Now, as to why people run Lijiang, my personal thoughts on that is, I think it is the comfort map for the majority of the teams. In terms of what maps you're typically scrimming, I think Lijiang is right at the top of the list for control maps that you typically want to play. Now, I know teams are less kind of attracted to the other maps per se, particularly the ones with a lot of environmental play in it. Like for example, Ilios and Nepal in particular have a lot of environmental play that I know teams want to sort of stay away from. So that kind of tells you why Oasis and particularly Lijiang have picked a lot more, in my opinion.
All right. I think you raised a pretty interesting point there. So let's then change focus on that. Specifically these 2 teams coming into Lijiang Tower, what are we expecting just straight off the hat?
I think triple DPS has been pretty good for the majority of the maps here, particularly for Hong Kong Attitude.
Hey guys, how's it going? Preparing here.
Yeah,
Turns out
absolutely.
triple DPS is pretty good.
Pretty good. Turns out DPS is not too bad, but it's actually going to be Control Center. So the other thing I was going to say is, if we go to Control Center, Reinhardt was going to be the good pickup.
Reinhardt indeed, and Reinhardt actually out of the gate for both of these, and often we've seen Etting either get picked right at the top or absolutely carry the team. So I'm curious to see how this one pans out for Hong Kong Attitude.
It's going to be Anakin on the McCree as well, so they're not going to go for this kind of dive composition. They're going to go for something a little bit slower, but they do give a lot of space to Hong Kong Attitude. Didn't have to work their way in much slower. If they lose the shield battle, they're out of the fight.
There hasn't even been any particular thing landing. Like, it hasn't even been something as simple as a biotic grenade. It has just been DeToNator kind of backed off a little bit. They kind of gave Hong Kong Attitude to ground, and now they're in a position where they are forced to go in. Yeah, still a bit too late to kind of go in though, because the Kappas have gone over to Hong Kong Attitude, and both have Earthshatter. Oh, walks it up past the shield, gets the back end of the team, but unfortunately K4 getting taken down there. Good reactions out of Samurai D, and now this. Good reactions again out of Etting, and that's actually going to swing the balance back in Hong Kong Attitude's favor. They didn't have the follow-up directly to the Earthshatter, but it did just sort of seem to force DeToNator's hand in terms of positioning.
This is the big difference between 2 team compositions, is Hong Kong Attitude don't rely on the shield as much as DeToNator rely on the shield. They need the Reinhardt shield, the uptime on that constantly to keep Anakin alive. Now for Hong Kong Attitude, because they're running such flexible, such mobile DPSs, they're okay if Ting sort of drops the shield. That's how they easily won that shield battle. Ting easily had the advantage in terms of damage as well. Got their early Earthshatter. Now Hong Kong Attitude, way ahead in ultimate. They're committing really hard to this now. They want to get a win here.
The Dragon Blade was a really big commit, actually. I suppose DeToNator had already committed the Sound Barrier and Deadeye as well, which may not have been necessary. So Hong Kong Attitude, it's not a bad trade to do 2 for 2, but certainly it's paid off for them.
DeToNator, they already used the Deadeye. The next big weapon here has to be the grab, but they can sort of combo that with Yoshiharu's self-destruct as well. That could be the opening they need. They don't have a big play that I feel can get past get past the front line of Hong Kong Attitude. So the grab realistically has to be that weapon. They do manage to push their way out anyway. I think Hong Kong Attitude seized off a little bit of ground. I kind of feel like Hong Kong Attitude didn't necessarily.
I think they did. I mean, they lacked the Earth Shatter. They've just got it now, and that's a really great use of it. In fact, straight onto it, no hesitation. And Sahade is holding onto his Graviton actually as they've kind of swung back there. It was a good Earth Shatter out of Ting, but the team didn't follow it up adequately. They kind of let themselves expose as they tried to go for the follow-up and DeToNator. They really got some mileage out of that.
Yeah, I think Samurai D got so much more than Ting got there. They both went for the Earth Shatter. Ting slams this down, doesn't catch Samurai D. He puts his one down straight afterwards. DeToNator come out way on top of his store, holding onto this Graviton Surge, which means they're in a great position to hold these doors.
Yeah, this is big for this defense, and watch for Saihade to run up behind this Reinhardt shield. That is how people have been holding the door. He needs to be careful not to give too much ground, though, and they've actually just kind of let a couple of members of Hong Kong Attitude go past. They're going to throw out the Diva Mech into it, though, to catch two, so they should still be able to hold out. CQB had thrown out the sound barrier there and actually committing a Dragon Blade on the back end as K4. I think that was a really greedy call out of Hong Kong Attitude. They'd slipped a couple of people past, but they weren't people that were going to get a ton of mileage done. They should have just ceded the fight, really.
Well, Hong Kong Attitude believed they could have won that grab fight anyway. I kind of felt like they're midway through the grab thinking, we actually haven't lost too many members here. It looks like the grab is about to go away. We can still fight this. Use a bunch of ults. Didn't expect the self-destruct to get the mileage and the self-destruct to get the 2 kills. But too late, Hong Kong Attitude, they got eaten
There
up.
we go. That's completely eaten. That is really, really unfortunate. I mean, Smite was right, I guess. It's shutting down the win condition because Jin Kao's ultimate was pretty much all they had here. Given that they used so much in the last fight, which was still a lost fight, and again, unable to get on the point. Now DeToNator, once again, should be able to hold them pretty much at this door.
Really want to know if DeToNator can close out this game. They're actually starting up from behind here. Usually it's when they start out ahead that they fail to close out the game. Now that they're behind, really moving back in. See if this Deadeye gets anything. I'm kind of thinking probably not. Still gets a trace.
Yeah.
It's a really good pickup.
I think that was actually Shaolin blinking past the shield just a moment too early and nearly got Shaolin as well, sorry, Ting as well, rather, who is going to have to be topped off. So that just means Hong Kong Attitude, even though they got the pick on Saihade, they kind of had to wait a minute before going in for this, but never mind that. DeToNator just backed off. They ceded the ground. They didn't need to. They lost Saihade. Hong Kong Attitude peeled back to lick their wounds, and DeToNator abandoned the point completely. Now they've let Hong Kong Attitude actually get into a good position for a fight. They've got all the freedom of movement for their mobile carries here, and now look at them going to try and wreak havoc around the side. That's a great Earth Shatter. They've got to get the follow-up as well. Going straight after Amakin, not quite closing it out on him. They got Yoshiharu out of the back, but here comes K4 now looking to open up with the Dragon Blade, and that should just be enough to secure the point for them. That's going to be the cat back and DeToNator. It's a long walk if they can even contest this, and they just gave that one away.
They're going to give the entire map as well. 99 ticks up to 100.
Dunzo.
No ultimates, no players, nobody alive.
No plan.
Absolutely nothing DeToNator had there, but it was close. They really had a moment where they brought it right back up. 99% for them, but they just dropped the ball at the end. I think you were so right as well. They did seize the ground, back themselves up. Kind of didn't need to. Should have really fought themselves.
Thing is, okay, first of all, I don't know why they would even back up to the point as it was. They should have stayed where they were. They were actually in a good position. They could have just backed up a little bit, waited for Hong Kong Attitude to come back at them, because Hong Kong Attitude had to. They were going to lose otherwise. And Hong Kong Attitude, like I said, had already peeled back to lick their wounds. So DeToNator, not only did they pull back way further than they even needed to, like they shouldn't have even pulled back as far as the point, but they then pulled back beyond the point. They left the point wide open. So by the time they were fighting, Hong Kong Attitude was standing on the point. And I just don't see the point of it all.
We'll see if they can we'll see what they give up and don't give up here for DeToNator, again, running something a little bit different to what Hong Kong Attitude are going, but the triple DPS is something I absolutely expected of Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, and Mango Jai, though, getting picked. It's really just good placement off to the side there by Saihade, as he's now going to be assaulting the point here in Hong Kong Attitude. They're kind of struggling to get onto this one just because... talked about it before. I mean, the Farah can't really get on the point herself, can only fire rockets onto the point, which is pretty inefficient. So Hong Kong Attitude, rightfully so, going to take a dive and switch it up straight away.
That's been a really good pickup, actually, in terms of getting the early kill on the Mercy. If you've been focusing the Farah, that's okay, but the Farah is constantly getting healed back up. If you focus the Mercy, you kind of shut down the Farah you pseudo-indirectly shut down the Farah anyway, because the Farah no longer has the heal sustain. Absolutely worked in DeToNator's favor. So currently, this sort of double hit scan composition is pretty good.
Yeah, well, this nice dive-heavy combat of Hong Kong Attitude starting to work a little bit more magic as they're already all over both Samurai D and Yoshiharu was forced out of the mech. Saihade starting to hit back though with this Tactical
is
visor
unneeded.
and then out of
There's
this
only
as
two
well.
members alive.
They should actually be able to just straight up close this one out. But that was a good start for Hong Kong Attitude. They've kind of absorbed a couple of ultimates, and they've kind of evened out what they lost by switching up Team Cobb. Should be looking better for this next fight.
Hong Kong Attitude, I think they'd be happy to take away 2 ultimates from DeToNator like that. Hong Kong Attitude realistically lost that fight quite early on, just to the regular kills coming out. They didn't. Getting the 2 bonus ultimates out of DeToNator's end really works into their favor now.
Speaking of bonus ultimates, and then here's going to be Deadeye to come out. Need to make sure he keeps it up for long enough, and they will retreat behind cover, so they're going to be just fine. Unfortunately, they kind of had to abandon Jin Kao here, but should be the route here as they're going very, very deep. Ating looking to get everyone way away from this, but the hits back are coming in as they've taken out Jin Kao. DeToNator, they're actually still in a pretty favorable position for this one, and Ating, if he doesn't find much with this ultimate, is in a world of trouble there. Flashbang off the side of the point. Hong Kong Attitude trying to force it now, and they're getting the picks to follow it up because they have forced DeToNator onto this point, having kind of forced them back. Ating doing good enough work there, so despite losing the members early, they just kind of forced DeToNator's positioning.
Killing Saihate early was really good as well. Then they forced Anakin back, and not just denying both the hit scan DPSs. DeToNator don't have a lot of options after that. I feel like those are definitely the 2 key targets for Hong Kong Attitude to take out. And with 3 DPS, well now 2 DPSs, who are, by the way, far more flexible, far more mobile than what DeToNator have to offer, I believe Hong Kong Attitude can do that. And
This is the move in, this is the move in for DeToNator, but K4,
that's a big pickup.
yeah, that is beyond big. That was just the 1 ultimate as well. That is absolutely massive. DeToNator funneling themselves into that corridor, and they don't have a Reinhardt, they don't have a frontline tank here, so K4 just went right behind them, dealt with all the squishies.
And who says you need a nano boost to go through Dragon Blade? That was way good enough on its own. So for Hong Kong Attitude, they've definitely put themselves back into this game. Now DeToNator again, good start. I think they're going to struggle to close this one out.
Yeah, known as take notes. Don't start with the D.Va, start with what's behind the D.Va. That's a double sound barrier now from both of these teams to open this one out, but there's Delave and Samurai D going down. Hong Kong Attitude looking fine. Oh, that's a great bump to knock out Saihate, and that should be it for the end of this fight here. I don't really see DeToNator getting onto this at all. Yeah, it's another bump. There we go, 2 environmental kills for Ating, and lands himself firmly on the bridge. They've still got a couple of ultimates in pocket as well. The Transcendence and Self-Destruct to give them enough mileage to at least force this to overtime, if not win outright.
Didn't get a bit of a change up on Anakin as well. Now going to the Tracer, they have to actually commit onto this next fight. About 75%. I don't think they can afford to save it one more time. They're going to be far too precious. So this will be a full commit out of DeToNator. Hong Kong
Yeah, it is.
should know that as well.
Yoshiharu is going to be the one to open up. They've already lost Dodalov. Jin Kao just went right for that one, had the healer in his sights. So the 1 ultimate gets no mileage. Hong Kong Attitude have actually used nothing here. Jin Kao, he will have enough time to get the mech back. Actually, he's going to take a dive rather to get the mech back, but all's well that ends well because they're about, so it's going to be overtime for DeToNator if they get onto this one at all. They're going to look for the angle, but that's the Transcendence to come out. They didn't touch it in time. That's unfortunate. Samurai D had the ult running, but just wasn't close enough, and Hong Kong Attitude firmly 2-0 up.
Yeah, and like I said, that was, they needed to get on there. Not they didn't need to get on there, but that previous fight, the second to last fight, was the fight they needed to really commit onto that. They didn't have a chance to. Hong Kong Attitude shut them out. Didn't get the chance for another fight at about 75%. That's going to be your commit. Now, I kind of look at it as 20% per fight. If you commit at about 75% and it goes to 95, 95 is definitely not enough time to get anything left done. By the time they came back, it was roughly about 95%. They couldn't even touch the cat when we got there.
I mean, if the first one was just sort of more DeToNator giving up the points to Hong Kong Attitude at the end, that one was definitely Hong Kong Attitude's well-earned win, right?
Yeah.
They outmaneuvered DeToNator start to finish and forced their hand in terms of positioning, then took advantage of it. So they didn't just set it up, they then executed.
Well, Hong Kong Attitude changed their composition as well. They got rid of the Pharaoh immediately when they discovered the double hit scan.
Exactly.
Now DeToNator are running Anakin onto the Genji. Let's see what he gets done on that.
Double-double, and Samurai D in a lot of trouble. They do lose Mango Jai. And Ating trying to do work in the back line, but it's actually Saihate who's the one really kind of pulling the mileage here. They do pick out Yoshiharu, which might just be enough to give Hong Kong Attitude mileage here, and DeToNator are kind of backing off from this one. Hong Kong Attitude should have position to get onto this point when they decide they want it. Getting Dodalov there should secure it for them as well. And Delave, there we go. Happy stuff for them, and they are indeed going to get on the point. Even when the kills were even, they actually had the positional advantage. I feel like DeToNator didn't really fall back safely.
It comes down to a lot of who the DPSs are killing, and if a DPS player takes on another one, that affects their ability to turn around the game and convert the further kills. We kind of said this yesterday, we'll watch Flash Wolves versus Machi. If the DPS takes out another DPS, particularly mid-ult, they then get the conversion kills that the other team can't get anymore. So it's a massive deal. Hong Kong Attitude have secured that. They killed Saihate early. Anakin kind of went down towards the end there as well. So Hong Kong Attitude now in a great position.
Yeah, the only thing is, losing a Ting, they were already a little lean on ultimates, but the trade back Shell and finding his counterpart should be enough to keep them in this one. As they open it up from K4. Oh no, Dodlov able to take that one out. And Dodlov actually stays alive as well, but DeToNator are still forced back just because of how the positioning has worked out. Anakin, he's honestly in unfriendly territory here, even as he's trying to go after CQB. They may just be able to get onto the point now, but it's taken them so long. Hong Kong Attitude will come in into respawns. Ting is trying to buy time on the point, and it might even work. No, going down a little bit too early in that one, losing CQB as well. Hong Kong Attitude should have just waited a half second longer to regroup before going into this. And now they need to be careful not to trickle in and just give away ult charge.
DeToNator should win this. They have all the ultimates available. Hong Kong Attitude, what they can do is force a couple of ults out.
What is Shellen doing?
If they can force ults, that's going to be good. Otherwise, they just didn't get. They have to
what
reset
are they
because
doing?
they are feeding ults.
They're just going in one by one now. I mean, they should have already backed off, like,
Flash Wolf syndrome.
They should have backed off before Ting went in the first time. He just went in a second time and died. This has totally swung the game, and it's all Hong Kong Attitude's mistake.
Like I said, Flash Wolves' attitude, Flash Wolves' kind of playstyle here. If we just keep throwing bodies in the point, we should win. Look for a cheeky Dragon Blade right behind enemy lines.
He's looking for it. He's really hunting for it. He needs to be careful not to go too deep. He does get CQB.
Wow, that's punished. He
yeah.
could have gotten a lot of kills there if he actually
That is big, but well, actually good reactions, I will say, out of Ting, but there isn't going to be any other follow-up out of Hong Kong Attitude. They can't exactly take advantage of that because they're kind of stuck off in this building because Ting had to peel around to deal with Anakin. So it does still pay off for DeToNator, and they actually don't lose any ultimates for it either, so they should be able to keep themselves set for this next fight.
Yeah, neither team lost any ultimates there, so good response realistically from both teams. DeToNator just getting the better end of the trade, but this is going to be the command now. It has to be DeToNator using first. I'm not a fan of the Transcendence, not reactionary enough, not countering any ultimates on their side.
CQB already out, so actually DeToNator do kind of make it work just because of sheer mileage, but K4 is going to try and turn that one around, going to try and change the story of this one, but unfortunately going down right at the end there. That is after the Dragon Blade was already committed, and actually both teams committing a ton of ultimates, but DeToNator committing just a few less and still coming out on top.
And for DeToNator, that was risky because K4 had the opportunity for the turnaround there, both and then Shiloh was still alive. They actually got between 3 and 4 kills with the two of them.
Yoshiharu nearly he barely kept that point alive for them. They nearly just, again, walked away from it, kind of let it go. Oh no! That is terrible for Saihate. He does get Jinkao, which is actually really big. That's one of the few ultimates HKA had to leverage, but now DeToNator are throwing the rest of their ults out, and unless they get a lot of kills here, Hong Kong Attitude can come back swinging, so they need to be quick to close these ones out, because already Ting is doing a lot of damage, and yeah, because the point was capped up so much, DeToNator only losing a couple of people and peeling back to go for the re-engage means they lose the point and actually have to completely retreat now, with Hong Kong Attitude now swinging the game back in their favor.
And this is DeToNator. They were ahead, still struggling to close out this game. They got no ultimates left to go now. And they're in the same spot they were on Gardens, roughly around the 75 to 80% mark. They have to commit to this fight again, and they got nothing to really commit into this fight with. Luckily, the Graviton surge from Jinkao for them didn't really get anything done.
Oh, greedy by K4. He shouldn't have been there. I mean, it's just what Ting did to Anakin a moment ago, right? The Winter just peels around, deals with the Genji, and now they have the opening. That was one of the key ultimates that Hong Kong Attitude had available. Ting, he's still going to throw his ultimate into this one as well, and Anakin is on the flank. He's trying to deal with the people on the side, and he's got Jinkao as well. That's a big turnaround. DeToNator, Anakin, if he stays alive, he should be able to be okay here. But no, Ting's going to deal with him, keep him out of this one. And he's actually managed to do it just barely. Ting's quick ult has kind of paid off for them. I felt like that was a greedy move. I felt like that was a really greedy move.
Greedy, but I want to say Hong Kong Attitude in general were pretty greedy in just a lot of things that they kind of tried to do there. At the same time, DeToNator.GOLD can't really punish him, and the story writes itself here because this is another example of DeToNator rather unable to close out a game where they do come out ahead. And even during times when they have a sort of big comeback return, which I believe on Control Center might have been, they were really far behind. They had a big chunk where they were in control. They had a big chunk where that was their turnaround play. If they'd kept that going, they would have been able to win as well. So all these kind of situations with DeToNator all kind of add up to being the one statement, which is again, failure to close out games that realistically they should be able to win.
Yeah, and look, maybe in a different situation, Hong Kong Attitude would have lost that because they did do something that was quite punishable. But you're quite right there. The more important thing is that DeToNator actually didn't punish it. So it makes it difficult to fault Hong Kong Attitude for it completely because they are also, excuse the obviousness of this, they are also playing the game that they're playing, right? That wasn't against Flash Wolves or Blank or AHQ or a team that could have maybe abused that mistake a little bit more. And even if it had been abused, it was still winnable from that point. So given that it's against DeToNator, you can almost excuse it, provided they don't go making those same mistakes later on. So having now seen the performance of these two teams, seen a lot of different team comps, which is something you touched on, Smite, what might we now expect on Hybrid? What do we think DeToNator's pick will be?
Kings Row, again.
Kings Row?
No, or maybe, but I mean, coming up against DeToNator, Japanese teams have not fared very well on Kings Row, both DeToNator and Sun System.
They've kind of not fared very well on anything.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, but we've seen the most of it on Kings Row. And after what we've just seen as well, DeToNator did not do fantastically on Kings Row. So I wouldn't be surprised so DeToNator are the home or the away team. So
yeah, so
they're picking
DeToNator
this
pick
map.
here.
Yeah, so I don't expect them to pick Kings Row, but then again, like you said, they haven't done fantastically on
I got an answer.
many of their maps.
They're going
What's
to go
your
based on
answer?
climate,
Yeah. So they're going to go hot. So they're going to go Numbani.
you reckon?
And the reason they'll go Numbani is because DeToNator have been a team with a record of picking Numbani. I believe they picked it at least twice now in throughout the 4 weeks. So
They picked it against
They
Blank.
picked it against, but you're actually completely
Yeah.
right. It was the very first time that, in fact, first time either of those teams played, yeah, you're right, they picked it against.
And then they realized their mistake picking it
yeah,
against
yeah.
Blank.
And we all sort of saw that.
at the same time, it was a good performance versus Blank, but we talked to death about that, which comes down to Blank not looking too great. I don't know.
Day one jitters. If we're going to put it in a word, let's put it as day one
We're
jitters.
not
There
going
is
to
a
talk
bit
about
more
that, but I'm not
nuance
going to
to
go.
it,
But I'm not
yeah.
going to go into that. But regardless, I think DeToNator had a decent run in Numbani. So, look, you maybe you're right, Smite. Kings Row is everybody's map. It's the crowd favorite. It's the player team favorite for everybody. However, if there was ever going to be another map for DeToNator, I think it's Numbani.
The only thing is, did we not also, correct me if I'm wrong here, did we not also see Numbani come out in the almost infamous now Hong Kong Attitude Blank series? Just to kind of touch on the blank
I
link
think we
here.
did.
And I
It's the
believe
final map.
Hong Kong Attitude won it as well. So I think you're quite right there. DeToNator maybe do have something they can pull out on Numbani.
No. They won. Hong Kong Attitude won Hanamura and Gibraltar, then lost Numbani.
Because Numbani was the last map.
Numbani was
so.
the last map, so they lost Numbani.
It was
the first one?
it was close.
Don't look at me like that.
Did
I
they- did they
know.
win
I
the-
know.
Did they win the first one in that series? Because they
Huh?
went to a game 5.
Yeah, it did. So Blank won 2, Hong Kong Attitude won the next 2, and then Blank won the 5th game.
Right. You're actually, yeah, you're completely right. There we go. Well, woohoo, yeah, nice. Better memory than I have
Yeah, sometimes.
sometimes.
But yeah,
On very specific things only.
Yeah.
So Numbani's on the table, you reckon? I mean, DeToNator have
Oh, sure.
shown that they've picked Kings Row in the last series, but remember how that went for them. So maybe they still have fresh wounds from that map and might want to pick up Numbani, like you said. It's also a map that plays a little differently to other hybrid maps, at least on the first point, right? Where the run back for both the attackers and defenders is a lot more close than all the other hybrid maps.
I think it's like swapped. To be honest, I think the run back for attackers is quite long, and the run back for defenders is quite short. So, first checkpoint I feel is defender favored in a big way, and then second checkpoint is attacker favored. Then the last checkpoint is then defender favored again. But yeah, no, it's I don't know. I don't know why DeToNator. I think DeToNator composition wise have felt pretty comfortable in Numbani, but more realistically, a more safe answer would probably be just more practice, more time scrimming that map.
Well, there we
More
go.
experience.
So maybe Numbani an option. Just for what it's worth, until we have found out what the map is going to be. What might the reasons actually be for picking either Hollywood or Eichenwald here? Because first of all, the other maps we've seen the least. Second of all, we feel they're not going to pick Kings Row. So if it were the other two, what evidence could we maybe bring in support of either of those being a pick?
Eichenwald would be less practice, less experience scrimming overall. It is a newer map, and it is also a map that
It's recently had some changes, actually.
which has also had changes, you're right, which means teams are less comfortable overall on that map. That being said, teams like Fireball are more willing to pick it because maybe they scrim these outlier maps like Ilios and Eichenwald, and they want to pull a wild card against teams that don't scrim and are less prepared. Now for DeToNator, I don't feel like DeToNator are a team that pull these wild cards out. They've been sticking to stuff that they're quite comfortable on, and that would be a reason why they wouldn't go for Eichenwald.
It's possible that they might consider bringing out Hollywood, because on King's Row we saw them bring out Sombra on attack, and Hollywood's another map that you can do that. In fact, it's got better access to health packs that you can hack. Now this is all just off the assumption that they want to run Sombra on attack again. It didn't work out fantastically against Machi at all. I feel like that teamfight could have gone very differently if very few things were changed very slightly. So I think the Sombra attack from DeToNator can work, but again, you can do the exact same thing on King's Row. So I think if they're going to pick one of those two maps for the Sombra reason, King's Row is just there already, unless they're just worried about a repeat match coming up from what they had last time.
That's essentially that execution problem that we were talking about. You bring up on King's Row. You know, if it's a few small things that are all the difference, then yeah, that's absolutely the execution thing. So perhaps we kind of have to appreciate here that that's something DeToNator are going to struggle with no matter what and no matter where they are. And I would say, just to kind of touch on what you said, would it be fair to say that the difference between DeToNator and Fireball here in terms of picking more unconventional maps is that Fireball can fall back on at least a semi-reliable execution on these oddball maps, whereas DeToNator cannot? Or is that putting it too starkly?
I don't know. I haven't really considered that part of it.
Well, now's the time.
Well, it's all right because King's Row was the map that was picked.
King's Row. There we
All
go.
this discussion for
Yeah.
King's Row.
King's Row.
It's
Sombra.
definitely not going to be King's Row. They did terribly on King's Row.
It's not even definitely not going to be King's Row. It's like it's probably going to be King's Row. But let's talk about why it might. Why if it's not, what else could it be?
Well,
That's redundant because it's going to be King's Row. So.
it's like this is the way it works, right? This is the way the tournament works. You pick Lijiang Tower, then the other team picks King's Row, and then you get to decide whether you go to Hanamura or Temple of Anubis.
No,
right?
we're going to go to Volskaya.
Or if you're blank, you go to Volskaya.
Yeah, if you're blank, you go to Volskaya. It's like one of those. It's like a book that's like choose your own journey. It's like if blank, go to Volskaya, and you like flick the page to Volskaya Industries, and then like you have died, go to Watchpoint Gibraltar. All right.
You lost against blank. Go to the back of go to the start of the book again.
So restart the book. Yeah, try again, loser. I wish those books could be a little bit more brutal. Like it's bad enough when you flick the page and it's like you have died. Like sometimes I wish it was just like, why did you make that choice, idiot? You're dead.
There was one that actually had that like that. Just on a small tangent, right? It was one of the Goosebumps ones. And
I love it. That's where I started doing this choose your own adventure. That's so
Yeah,
so cool.
you had to pick a list, like from a list of 3 things at the start, and you're only allowed 3 items, and one of the paths you could take, you had to have 4 items to take, and then it just calls you a cheater, and it's like, why would you do this? Why are you choosing this option? Why are you cheating in a book?
It's so
And it berates you, it's so savage.
That's like if you have a pirated version of Game Dev Tycoon, you can't beat the game, and then it comes up with a message that's like absolutely ripping on you. It's like everyone's pirated your game and you lost all your money. If only you paid for legitimate games. And it's like just I don't know why that's reminded me of that, but just like absolute destruction, eh? Like no mercy on the consumer.
Speaking of no mercy,
Probably won't see one on King's Row.
you probably won't see. That's what.
Sick
First.
segue.
At the same time, I don't know. We are now seeing. We are seeing a lot more mercies come out on defense in particular.
Just mercy everywhere.
So Flash Wolves are running mercy. Actually, a lot of more teams are running mercy on, particularly Gibraltar first checkpoint defense. I know we're playing King's Row, but we have sort of been seeing a little bit of mercy come out on defense as well, particularly on the first checkpoint. So that has been interesting. Not going to see that today. It's going to be something a little bit more familiar.
Yeah. Namely a Hanzo. It's going to be a
that's
swap
just a
up.
scouting
Yeah.
Hanzo.
I quite like that actually. We saw it kind of disappear for a while, and I do like that it's come back. I mean, there's no harm in really doing it, but in any case, don't know how much useful information Hong Kong had actually
K4
really got out
swaps
of it.
from
but-
one Shimada brother onto the other.
Yeah, and they were already kind of backing off here, seating
It's
a
like,
bit of
whoops,
the
I got
ground.
Luigi, time to go back to Mario.
Oh my god, no! This is Well, no, because Genji's the blue one. Sorry, the green one. So he's Luigi. But here we go. Like the DeToNator, they're trying to not back up too much and let Hong Kong Attitude get behind them. They're actually kind of struggling to execute. But here, Jin Kao failing to get into the window means he's too deep, and that just could be all that they need to kind of push Hong Kong Attitude back a little bit.
DeToNator should break out now. They got to kill. They should break.
They've got to go. They
got a mech. They should break out.
But they should still go because that is a squishy member. But Yoshiharu losing his own mech means it's kind of even Stevens as they lose Samurai D as well. In breaking out, they didn't execute adequately, let themselves too exposed. Saihade may still be able to clean up here, especially if he is able to get Mango. But no, what a 1v1 that was. That was poor execution. He was trying to get the kill so that he could then open up with the tactical visor, but too greedy on that play there. Hong Kong Attitude have time to go back onto this point easily.
That makes a lot of difference as well. Losing your main DPS is like that. Graviton Surge should come out of Anakin as well.
Yeah, but honestly, K4, he's able to kind of open up on the race. Saihade though, opening up with the attack visor, and there we go, able to close out a couple of kills right at the end there. Hong Kong Attitude is still kind of brawling that one up for a brief second at the end. Nearly got Saihade, but it wouldn't have even been worth it. They should just kind of pull back here, having blown the Dragon Blade, try and go again.
I think Saihade just got there back in time as well. Luckily, he's playing Soldier, so he can just sort of sprint, but any other DPS...
Literally, yeah. He can actually sprint back to the point. And then he can get the Jokers off it.
Off his lawn.
Yeah. I want to get like a Golf Dad Soldier 76 skin. But here's going to be the next push out, and already pushing back Samurai D. That's the crucial one, and often when we see DeToNator struggle on defense, it's because Samurai D gets picked. But he had to kind of fall back. HKA, they're taking everything they can with that, forcing DeToNator even further back so they've got time to cap, but they need to remember to actually cap, can't play too far forward. There they go, moving back to the objective now as they close up a few more in DeToNator. That was just good use of the positional advantage there. Getting Samurai D low enough that he had to go back was as good as killing him.
And for DeToNator, they had managed to keep the fight within the archway and not get themselves pushed further back. That may have worked out a little bit better for them. As soon as they got pushed back beyond the archway, they were back into open space. Hong Kong Attitude, they got the flexible DPSs again. And this is Hong Kong Attitude now pressing their advantage, keeping that momentum rolling through. A lot of teams are doing this now. It's a really good effect. Look at all these kills.
Yeah, Saihade as well.
And they're struggling to even mount any defense now.
That's also a kill on Saihade, who is in the high ground, so he can't actually get back up there either. So not only are they not only are they going to like struggle to mount a defense in terms of time, they're also going to struggle to mount one in terms of position. Hong Kong Attitude should just be able to get the cart all the way up to this point unless DeToNator get a pick.
Look at Shaolin, he's already just waiting. Yeah.
This is basically a 5 versus 6, but Hong Kong Attitude had the positional advantage.
It's almost like Hong Kong Attitude have the defender's advantage, and now DeToNator
already picking Anakin at the top of that one, and now starting to close out more. I mean, the Hong Kong Attitude, that's just all positioning there, and only one ultimate. That was just K4, and he didn't even get a ton of actual kills. He just got enough damage that they could close out the rest. And like I said, that is going to be the payload. Moving. Yeah, it is going to be the payload making it to the end, and Hong Kong Attitude getting there with ultimate advantage.
Yeah, so they're winning all of these fights. DeToNator have not managed to bank up any ultimates in all of this. The damage output has been a pretty stark difference. No ability whatsoever to stop the cart moving on the second checkpoint. Don't forget, it's been 6v5 the entire time Hong Kong Attitude have been pushing this cart. So for DeToNator, losing 6v5 like twice in a row, that's kind of painful.
Well, they're going to have to kind of go for this fight now, DeToNator, if they want to draw out some of these ultimates and get a favorable one later. But Shaolin getting 2 with the pulse bomb. That Graviton out of Anakin is going to do nothing but nothing, in Hong Kong Attitude happy to hold on to this one. Don't know if the self-destruct was necessary, but securing the fight isn't a bad thing. DeToNator, though, they do actually have a bit of a window here to defend with this nano visor.
The problem for Hong Kong Attitude is they have spent a lot of ults before they can get the card into a winnable position. They get the card into a decent amount of distance, but the distance between where the card is now and actually capping, they need a couple of ults left to do that.
Was that a Busio? I don't know who the nano boost went on, but it certainly didn't go on to Saihade.
Got eaten by the Diva.
That is a great transcendence to completely nullify this tac visor here. Ting got picked as well, but DeToNator, they've only just got Saihade back, so both still trying to leg it back to the fight. Ting, though, crucially has a longer walk and had one of the ultimates. So DeToNator, they should actually be able to keep this fight alive in their favor. The Transcendence
K4 has ult now, so
Transcendence was defensive. It can't really turn things around, but yeah, here's Ting going in with the ultimate running. Samurai D with an ultimate as well, trying to make something happen on this backline. He's hunting out Mango Jai, but K4's opening up with his ultimate, and that one's getting all the work done. I don't think anyone noticed him sneaking into that position on the side of DeToNator, and they should be able to push this one through.
They need people on card. Come
Samurai
on, please.
D is he's trying to buy seconds, but it's not going to be enough, and that was a very respectable time.
And K4, massive play onto the side for him, just coming up from the angle, exactly like you said. The side flank, sort of where the health pack is on for the defenders, and No one from DeToNator realized he was there. We were watching, I believe it was Samurai D's perspective, and for him, I would have been looking for the soldier. I think he was looking for the soldier. He didn't see him. So
he found Mango, and when that's good enough.
He's like, okay, we'll go for him. And the whole time I was looking at, I was checking out the lineup for Hong Kong Attitude, and I was thinking, K4 is a tag visor. Where is he? Because from Samurai D's positioning, he should have been able to spot K4. And if he had, he would have gone on to K4. However, K4 came out unscathed. Full tag visor, 4 kills, that got them the win.
And with no one to block him. Yoshiharu was out of the mech. There was no diva to absorb that. There was no defensive ultimates from the supports. There was absolutely nothing, and he was in an uncontested position.
The stars lined up for K4 so well for that.
Yeah, those of you at home, if you've ever wondered what tunnel vision looks like so that you can identify when you are tunnel visioning, it is that Winston diving onto Mango Jai when he knew he should have sought out K4. He should have never gone, well, I guess Mango's good enough. He should have gone, Mango can't kill me. He's already used Transcendence. I need to kill this soldier.
And he had a Primal Rage, and the expected play for me was Samurai D was going to find K4. K4 would have had to use Take Visor eventually, and then Samurai D would have Primal Rage to knock K4 about, CC him in the middle of Take Visor, completely nullify the Take Visor's damage against his own team and mitigate that altogether.
And that could have been all it took to buy them the time to hold.
That was the expected play from DeToNator to defend. Unfortunately, for Samurai D, couldn't make that play happen. I don't want to put it all on him, but it was mainly K4 being very creative that I thought was good.
Yeah, and there we go. I mean, once again, I guess that's part of DeToNator's failure to execute there, and in this case, it came down a bit more to the target selection. But out the gate now, on the offense is DeToNator, and it's going to be down to Hong Kong Attitude to hold them really at any point.
Again, a slow push composition from DeToNator. They want to go for the picks here. Flashbang, McCree headshots, and a hook from the Hog is what is on the menu for DeToNator for Hong Kong Attitude. K4, just in his perch, as usual. What DeToNator need to do is actually contest K4, get him off this perch.
Yeah, but they're not really, it's like they're not even quite aware he's there yet, or at the very least Yoshiharu isn't quite in the right position to go up to the high ground to try and contest him, at least not yet. And Hong Kong Attitude, unlike DeToNator, aren't going back and seeding the ground. They're kind of matching blow for blow here, given that they have K4 on the high ground, but him being asleep means DeToNator take the opportunity to go in. Now Yoshiharu goes up to the high ground. Anakin getting picked off though, a bit too deep, a bit too eager in front of his own Reinhardt.
Trade though.
Yeah, and now this is going to be DeToNator having to back off safely. They do trade back onto K4. A-Ting is in a bit of a tight spot here, but against the Earth Shatter to catch out DeToNator on the retreat, and they don't even need to get kills here because this is going to force DeToNator back and give them time to get K4 back into this fight, and even A-Ting after that.
And the problem for A-Ting was that Earth Shatter just saved himself. The Earth Shatter didn't actually set up a play for the rest of his team at all.
That was
however, is a bit of a setup.
Oh, nasty, nasty. Oh, just barely gets the shield up in time though. That could have been a great combo either. But this is just really back and forth jostling, and this will have kind of eventually favored DeToNator just because Hong Kong Attitude don't have a short walk. But here's the open up from K4, and he can't find anything through that defense matrix.
Yep.
So they're going to be forced on back. They didn't quite take the initiative on routing DeToNator, and DeToNator actually took the window to strike back. Now it's Hong Kong Attitude who are being routed.
DeToNator should have this secured now. That Hong Kong Attitude have no opportunity to get back through the archway. Cap goes out, and for DeToNator, they need to get the kills. They have to be just as aggressive as Hong Kong Attitude were on their offensive. This has to be a chase, and DeToNator are going to back off. This is going to give Hong Kong Attitude the ability now to set up an actual defense, something that DeToNator didn't have to work with. And Hong Kong Attitude got a really decent time, and not a mind-blowing time, but a very respectable time on their offense. If DeToNator want to match this, they already have to be... They have to get a free push on through the street phase with very little resistance.
And
they're
Hong Kong Attitude,
now.
Hong Kong Attitude got a free push. DeToNator aren't doing what Hong Kong Attitude did. They're not going to get a free push. At the very least, look, this may still go to the end. We're not going to call it all over, but Hong Kong Attitude, even if they fail to defend, should feel comfortable in time bank in this situation. But now let's see if they can actually then defend. Oh, big open, there we go. Samurai D, fast asleep mid-charge. He's still got the native who's running, but he's not really finding anything for it, except for an Earth Shatter on 3 members, but he only gets the 1 kill for it. They are forcing them back though, so this should be all they need to cap the point, and actually Hong Kong Attitude not finding the point to defend. It did stall them up for a moment, but this is still actually enough time to beat out Hong Kong Attitude's cap if this still goes uncontested.
The difference here is for DeToNator, when Hong Kong Attitude were in the same position, they were sitting on like 4 or 5 ults pushing on the 3rd checkpoint. For DeToNator, they completely cleaned out. Yes, they are going up against Hong Kong Attitude, which have no ults either, But Hong Kong Attitude are getting their ults a little bit quicker.
And they
will
get
come
defender's
on
advantage
just,
anyway.
And they're already in a defensive position. The point being, DeToNator have no momentum to carry forward now.
Yeah, they're just going to have to hard brawl this one to the end, and it's going to take them a couple of goes at it first.
Okay, already creative again. Watch the positioning on that one.
And again, DeToNator need to be very careful with where he's going to go. Up onto this kind of back ledge here. Ultimate out of Anakin. Bit of an early one, but it does at least force Hong Kong Attitude back. Not going to find anything for it, but DeToNator buy themselves some space.
DeToNator, they need a lot of space. Their composition
There's
works
the open.
entirely around space. Blocks of Earth Shatter as well, so...
Yeah, that was actually quite good. He was trying to force the shield to go in 2 positions at once, but it didn't quite work out, and Hong Kong Attitude committing 2 ultimates. It's just kill for kill right now, and the sound barrier is forced out now of Hong Kong Attitude. This could be a winner for DeToNator, but they're kind of lacking is still in ultimates, and now in tanks is Hong Kong Attitude going deep for the route. K4 committing the attack visor. That was actually good for DeToNator though, because Hong Kong Attitude exhausted all their resources, and DeToNator are about to have a round of ults coming up.
The problem for Hong Kong Attitude, the reason why they exhausted everything was because they missed the Earth Shatter. Now for Ching, this has been a problem so far in this matchup against DeToNator. I haven't seen a single successful Earth Shatter, which even if it lands, needs to be actually converted into kills from this team following up. So haven't seen that at all this entire game. Hong Kong Attitude had to burn extra ults due to a failed Earth Shatter. And now they're in a spot where they're a little bit more behind than they'd like.
Yeah, we'll have to see though if DeToNator can actually take advantage of that spot, because like we said, they have a bit of a failure to execute as they go for the execute now, but already losing Saihade, even as Samurai D got the Earth Shatter down. He actually connected it, but no follow-up there. And with this ult on Jin Kao, the Nano Boost running, they should be able to clean up DeToNator pretty handily here. DeToNator, good job holding on to the rest of their ults, so they only committed the Earth Shatter, but that was still a failure, essentially.
Yeah, so both Reinhardts now have failed an Earth Shatter, and
yeah, I was actually going to say, we haven't seen many successful Earth Shatters at all.
Except the one which kind of won DeToNator the fight, which secured them second checkpoint. So yeah, he kind of winded the Earth Shatter around the side, collected 2, and those 2 that he got were just enough to get DeToNator the cap. Now this time around, failed ults are not giving DeToNator enough mileage to actually get the cap all the way through. This position of the card is extremely difficult to get all the way to the end.
There's only so much you can really do with the whole hog here, and there's going to throw out the Diva self-destruct, and the team is kind of spread out. Catching DoToNator is massive. No
Anakin killing K4 is big.
Yeah, that is useful, but no nano boost to kind of follow up with this.
That's a bit more useful.
That is much more useful. They've actually managed to make the space despite a good start, and they kind of left exposed to Anakin's ultimate. Great hook onto CQB, and they might actually push this through to the end. It's really all on 18, and I don't know what he can do. K4 again, trying to get the good position, and it's starting to work. It's blocked out for now, but the defender's advantage can start to come through here if they can get on top of this point. That's a good graviton to try and make it happen, and that's, the Earth Shatter might just be all they need. The sound barrier is trying to keep it alive for Hong Kong Attitude. The payload's moving, that's what really matters. Hong Kong Attitude is going to be down to the wire, still trying to keep it on the, moving inches forward, just barely, and it's really just Mango Jai on this Tracer, keeping it alive, darting in and out of the point. They can't overcome this, they are just trying to run down the clock.
More ults for DeToNator as well. This is a position where DeToNator will 100% cap it. They're in such a great, in terms of physical positioning and also ultimate rotations.
There we go.
No way for Hong Kong Attitude to actually come out. What you said about just bleeding out the clock, that's correct.
Yeah, and I can't blame them for that as well. When you are facing a time bank scenario, when you already have more time, even if it goes to overtime, you want to force it down to at least a minute. And they pretty much did. I think it ended up capping out at around a minute 15 or a minute 20. And it was expected at that point that DeToNator would be able to get it through no matter what. But I like what they did.
And DeToNator were in a spot where, like I said, around that last bend at the end, getting the card all the way to the final section, that last bit of distance is so difficult. And Anakin opened up the place. He got the initial kill, and then the Deadeye opened up 2 more. Now we said, yeah, Anakin got the trade onto K4. That's very good. They need a little bit more. They got more. 3 immediately kills from Anakin in quick succession. Allowed DeToNator to immediately put the foot on the gas pedal. Exactly what they did. And put Hong Kong Attitude in a spot where they had to trickle in kills. K4 came back with a tag visor. Immediately played himself into a matrix.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that was even with DoToNator actually being the first to die in that fight. They had no nano boost. They went into it in a 5 versus 6, got enough trades. And if we talk about DeToNator sometimes having a bit of a case of failure to execute, that was not a failure to execute. No. That was perfect execution in an uphill battle. They pulled it off. credit where credit's due, and now we have to see if they can pull it out in the time bank.
It's almost like a similar situation where K4 on their attack managed to get to a good angle, didn't get blocked off and got 4 kills attack Visor. Anakin kind of did the same thing, but on McCree, but with Deadeye. Both teams managed to secure very good execution with DPSs in that final stretch.
All right, well, Dodalov will be swapping out to that Mercy.
DeToNator is showing some mercy.
Anakin's in this building, which means he can't really get much mileage. He was trying to get the flank around. Now going up and behind Hong Kong Attitude, as a couple of them were kind of stuck on the high ground. Ooh,
good
quick
protection.
Fingers, yeah, quick fingers by Sheldon to protect K4. They are going to have to peel back just a little bit and need to be careful to not lose a ting here, though.
So
they're going to be fine. Picking Samurai D secures that for the Hong Kong Attitude.
Samurai D does. A lot of these have come down to the shield fights as well. The Reinhardt that drops shield, Reinhardt that loses their shield burst, I guess more accurately saying, typically allows the other team to really get aggressive and get the positioning off them.
Yeah, and because Anakin was trying to go behind the shield and kill the Reinhardt, while K4 was just going for the Reinhardt shield, that is why that fell that way.
We're already on to 20 seconds. DeToNator, I don't know, they haven't got any ults to sort of use. Hong Kong Attitude are getting very close to theirs. I'm expecting Hong Kong Attitude to actually get a full hold here.
Yeah.
DeToNator would have to get a lot of very big kills.
They've actually got to go right now because the Graviton's going to come up. If they're not on the point when the Graviton gets thrown out, they're in trouble. Now on the point, as this Graviton is about to be into this fight, yeah, really down to the wire. Here we go. Oh, they're already grouped. They're just kind of laying it out here on a silver platter. They're going to try and get the mileage first, but there they go. That's a good one. Try to get the shield out as low as they can, and then they blow up the team. Guess who got detonated? And Hong Kong Attitude well set to hold, throwing everything in the kitchen sink at that, but it works, and that is a hold for Hong Kong Attitude. All they have to do is beat 7.8%.
And Jinkao played that so calculated. He waited for, I can't remember who was playing the D.Va.
He waited for the enemy Zarya bubbles. That was big.
He actually waited for a lot of ability to go, but particularly he waited for D.Va to leave. Now you see D.Va immediately go for K4 onto the perch. He's a lever instead.
D.Va to lever. And then
really need this D.Va to leave.
And actually, just also to kind of touch on another micro thing that happened there. They then also landed a biotic grenade because the shield was faced the wrong direction just briefly. So they waited. They didn't go, all right, let's throw this down and then we'll throw everything else at it. They set themselves up and then did it all at once. That is what good execution looks like.
So here's the micro error for DeToNator. If they had kept the D.Va secured onto Jinkao, locked on with a matrix on Jinkao Zarya instead, they would have prevented, or at least threatened to prevent, the Graviton surge, which could have put them into a much better offensive spot. Because DeToNator went for K4 on the perch with D.Va instead, they said, look, we want to pressure K4 out. Big mistake, Jinkao says, see you later, D.Va, and now see you later, team, here's a grab.
Yeah, and I mean, Hong Kong Attitude rather, did actually take a risk by not pulling back and then re-engaging. They stayed on the point to get that setup. And you're right, actually, DeToNator didn't read that situation and didn't take advantage of the fact that Hong Kong Attitude were, all things considered, positioned aggressive.
If you see a very aggressive Zarya like that, expect a Graviton surge to come
they're
out.
looking for something.
Specifically when you're at the stage of the game where ultimates are coming online, expect that ultimates are coming online for the defenses who did win the previous fight. They just didn't play around the ultimates coming up, and they paid for it.
Now DeToNator, it is all on them to hold. They've
Should have played around Flame Strike.
They've got a really, really tight margin here. They can't really give much ground at all, and they are a team that tends to give ground when they get aggressed upon. K4 right up onto the high ground. He doesn't even need to kill him. He just needs to force him back because it's going to draw the rest of the team back. Like I said, the margin is really, really tiny, but they lose Samurai D, and that's going to be all it takes. Now DeToNator, whether they die or whether they pull back, it doesn't matter. They did not hold. They did not have the time or the space to do it. That was beautiful by K4.
And Hong Kong Attitude did what DeToNator could not. DeToNator tried to challenge K4 on the top ledge. They couldn't push him off. Why? Because I believe it was Shaolin on the D.Va himself, able to protect K4, able to block out the damage. Now Anakin had the Pharah. Anakin's Pharah actually did a great job of challenging K4. Had the D.Va not been there, had Shaolin not been there, that would have been K4 dropping as well. So big difference there. And this is going to, before we get to there though.
So Hade may have even won the 1v1, but at that point it doesn't matter because the team would have had to retreat. So that was just, they didn't set themselves up adequately for what Hong Kong Attitude was likely to do.
I want to speak to that play of the game really quickly because one thing I didn't notice is I didn't realize that Anakin also killed a Ting. So he killed.
He just killed everyone.
He killed everyone. But the setup was he killed the Ting, which denies a Rhine denies the Rhine shield, which is the primary thing that will stop his Deadeye. Gets an easy, well not an easy kill, but gets the kill into K4, which is someone that could have probably have shot him down. And the interesting thing is, I think Shailin was on the Diva for this as well, but Shailin flew past Anakin and wasn't in position to matrix him, even though Shailin was right there. Anakin pulled the Deadeye out, sort of just moved himself to the right, picked up 2 immediately. Shailin could have prevented that. He had the matrix available. He was in the area. He just flew past Anakin.
I'd say that's the difference between Yoshiharu and almost every other Diva, right? Some Divas will occasionally miss something like a Deadeye or Attack Visor coming out, and suddenly they get enough time to actually get a kill out of it. Yoshiharu is already there before the thought of ulting has even entered your mind.
Yeah.
And that's why I think he's one of the best players on DeToNator, right? A lot of people hype up Anakin, but Yoshiharu brings so much value.
There's something I want to point out very specifically, and this is the second time we've seen in just this matchup, in just this map, where a single micro mistake, particularly now from the Diva that we can tell, has been making or breaking the difference between games. Now look, Shailin didn't block out the Deadeye, Anakin picks up an extra 2 kills, suddenly 6v2, and DeToNator get the full cap. That might not have happened had the Matrix not been there. Now, second time around, we look at Time Bank. Where was the Matrix against Jin Kao's grab? Where was
Yoshiharu? Where was he when he needed to be defending Saihate?
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean,
Yes, Mike. Where was Yoshiharu?
Not trying to just like completely smack you down, because you actually do, like you are quite right. You do raise a good point, but. Again, if we talk about a failure to execute well, this is one of those places, right? It actually doesn't matter how good you are if, when it comes crunch time, you aren't where you need to be.
The point I'm trying to make here is that from both sides now, from both of these players, and I'm just pointing out Divas here specifically.
Frankly, both Divas disappointed.
But in general, the micro decision making on a very small scale, like even we talked about Samurai D looking for K4 at the end as well. He went on to Mango Jai. You're right. He shouldn't have settled for that. He should have continued looking for K4 and tried to shut him down. These micro mistakes on a very small scale, it's just the one choice they make, has been deciding games. So the smallest things so far in the game have been making huge impact on the actual result of the game.
There's also one other difference I want to talk about, which was during Time Bank, right? Both teams had soldiers up in the defensive balcony. Like, that's great. They're always going to get dived upon, so each team picked a buddy to defend for them. Hong Kong Attitude had a Diva, and we saw how that worked out fantastically. Stopped Anakin's rockets, everything. Kept them completely safe.
Saihate didn't have a buddy.
Yeah. Saihate
failed the buddy system.
No, he had Anna up there with him, and
that's not a good enough buddy.
Exactly right. That's the big difference. Right?
She's a pretty terrible friend.
Well, it's not like,
I was gonna go. I invited her to a movie, and she was like, "Yeah, sure," and then she just didn't even show up. Like,
well, but the big difference.
I went to watch
right,
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 alone.
I asked her to nano me, and she didn't. So
yeah,
look,
she didn't.
I want a meme too, guys, but I'm almost finished my point.
Sorry, no points, only memes.
But the big difference between a Diva being a buddy and Anna being a buddy is that it's just like when you're diving soldier, you get to dive Anna at the same time. You get 2 targets, 2 people you get to
It's like better, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
that's the kind of buddy that the Genji wants you to have.
Exactly.
Not the kind of buddy that you want
he's
to have.
probably just going to reflect sleep dart back at you anyway.
It's
so.
like, right, if I was ever with my partner and we were getting mugged in an alleyway, I can't do anything, right? Like I know that the stereotype.
Just announce that.
I know that the stereotype. Yeah. If you ever wanted to try and stab my girlfriend, go ahead. I'm not going to do anything. No, seriously. Like, I'm going to be totally frank with you, right? I'm the Anna. I am not the right kind of guy to jump in front of a knife. I'm sorry. You're on your own. I'm out of there, right? I'm donezo. No use. I hope you're useless.
Wow. Just wow.
Not getting it.
It's okay. What is like? It's 1:30 in the morning. She'll be asleep. She can't hear this.
You're digging right now.
I don't know what to say to that.
But I agree.
The view of the sky is quite nice from this hole I'm in.
On topic, I do agree. Bad should have had the Diva. Should have had better protection for Saihate there, or at least for Saihate needed something. He needed help to be able to stay up there, because a big difference was K4 didn't get denied. Saihate got denied immediately.
It's like what they were expecting was for Hong Kong Attitude to do one push and then back up a little bit and sound it out and then do another push, at which point I think DeToNator were hoping they'd have the Nano Boost Tactical Visor combo available, which is why I think they were setting the 2 of them up there, right? And also decent sight lines for the Ana, but certainly didn't work.
Another difference is Saihate jumped out the back window where Genji is just going to kill him. K4 was going to
He didn't kill him. He didn't kill him, but
it doesn't matter.
You have to jump out the back. If you jump out the front window, you've just jumped into the entire enemy team.
Exactly.
You can't jump out the front window.
When there's
It's like, okay,
6%
if
on
you're
the point to defend, you've got to be on that side of the wall. You can't
Okay,
jump out
well,
the back.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, like, cerebrally, yes, but when you're making the split-second decision, you go to habit, right? Because the thing we have to remember is teams don't practice a lot of time bank. They play it, and sometimes it happens in scrims, but actually the overwhelming majority of the time, it doesn't get actively practiced. So you don't ever build...
Teams restart the map instead of playing
You
time
don't
bank.
ever build the muscle memory of doing the opposite to what you'd normally do. So you're completely right. He should go onto the point side to at the very least contest it and also draw K4 back down as well. But the muscle memory kicks in and you jump to the other side of the point. And that's actually just in general a bit of a weakness of how a lot of teams approach really any map that can go to time bank. You're completely right. They reset completely. They don't practice time bank.
Well, that's kind of it.
Just thought I'd, there we go.
That's the
Just
match. That's the
literally
match, fellas.
throwing every team under the bus. Just throwing massive shade.
Actually, you know, I don't know if I still don't agree with Saihadli jumping on the point to contest. If you have other members there, specifically tanks, I'd even throw your support on there to contest instead of your DPS. Why throw your DPS on there to contest? Your DPS, if your DPS is gonna die, actually, this is it. What is the best chance for your DPS to live? Jump out the back window and reconsolidate with your team at the back, right? Because Genji isn't K4 can chase, but he's not going to chase into the entire enemy team unless he wants to get punished. So whatever keeps your DPS alive is the line of play that I feel most teams, every team realistically has to go for, because the DPS is what could turn a fight around if anyone.
Okay, sure. But if the intention is to keep the DPS alive, they should have actually just had it deeper in the first place.
Yeah.
Let's also appreciate that factor
That's
here.
true.
I mean, we can postulate about all this, like, okay, if you've already made the wrong decision, what then is the right decision? Well, arguably neither is the right decision, because let's be honest, he jumps out the back way. There's such a little percentage, like you said, that it's hard to get back in time. Plus, you're in a 5v6 with no DPS for the moment while he's moving around. That's all Hong Kong Attitude need to go onto the point and cap it out. You go onto the front side, you're in the middle of the enemy team, right? Both are actually wrong in that they shouldn't have even needed to make that decision.
Actually, you know what the biggest mistake was? DeToNator should have ran
They should have gone to a warmer climate.
They should have ran an aggressive counter dive composition where they initiate first, because if they get initiated on, if Hong Kong Attitude execute properly, DeToNator their only choice is to start backing up, because they're playing a soldier-based defense, which means they need to make the shield play is extremely important, and if they face too much aggression, their only typical response is to back off and cede room. Now, you can't do that in time back, because as we saw, as soon as Hong Kong Attitude get a little bit of time on that, they instantly win the game. So realistically for DeToNator, they should have identified what is the best way we can prevent any cap time whatsoever. They had played a counter dive. Now, they don't have to play for long because it's only a couple minutes. If they play a counter dive, they initiate first, they have the opportunity to still win a game. But if they play a very defensive shield-based composition, as soon as they get initiated on, they have to back off, they instantly lose. That's kind of what I think.
Yeah.
Yoshiharu's great.
Except when he lost the round.
Not intentionally like leaving you hanging there. You're actually quite right there. Like, I mean, if we can say that the wrong thing was the mistake was to not take a diva in the first place, perhaps actually you're completely right. The mistake was even one level beyond that, and that they picked the wrong team comp altogether. So, without wanting to go too deep into what DeToNator did wrong there, they did actually do a lot right, and we did see places where they were executing, which we pin as being a weakness of theirs, and it's a weakness for slightly different reasons every time. Sometimes it's a misposition from Yoshiharu, sometimes it's not catching a crucial member, sometimes it's that sort of tunnel visioning we saw out of Samurai D. It's different things at different times, right? But they are actually still executing sometimes. What should they be doing maybe to tip that balance?
I've got to say,
Well, there we go.
It's
Nothing, they're just bad.
not necessarily. It's like you saw a lot of their execution. You saw a lot of their execution during the offense, right? Like a lot of it was great, and even up till the very end, they were doing a lot of great things. I mean, AVRL here just went on a big discussion about how everything Anakin did just went into how his team managed to capture the third and final checkpoint, right? Stop the Reinhardt, no more shield. D.Va's flown off to somewhere else, and suddenly that's the two things that are going to stop your Deadeye.
Just going back to Korea, the Omnic has come out of the sea again. That's what happened. That's what that
My
is.
people need me.
I only recently
It's a long
found that out.
flight.
I only recently found that out. Like I knew the whole shebang of like why Diva's in the mech and like that side of things, but I didn't realize that it was like literally an Omnic kaiju. Like I just assumed they had a regular Omnic crisis like everyone else, not like Godzilla Omnic.
Oh, so their
Yeah.
one was an Omnic.
That's what it is.
kaiju.
And like literally, it
what did-
keeps.
so
Hear
what
me
did-
out. This is the best
what did
part.
Japan get in
It
Hanamura?
doesn't just come out of the sea once. It comes out of the sea, and then they beat it, and then like it goes back into the sea, and then it comes again. So it just keeps coming in and out. It just keeps coming back.
They need
out.
to find a more permanent solution. to that.
Exactly. Maybe they should just kill it.
They need to go down to the portal at the bottom of the ocean.
I feel like
Exactly.
Also, I feel like
Exactly.
Diva's mech isn't
They
big
need
enough.
to
drop
nuke
the
the
self-destruct.
sea.
They need to put the self-destruct down through the portal.
I was going to make a really
Alien
bad joke
portal.
about nuking the sea, but I realized that would be a little.
It was a Pacific Rim reference.
Yeah.
but-
I got it.
Yeah, you got
I
it.
got
Yours was
I got
probably
it.
a lot more kosher than mine was going to be. So there we go.
Well, at least it wasn't the discussion before.
So about how Arthur is a terrible friend.
So yeah,
part.
What, the Guardians of the Galaxy part? Was that the wrong part? I don't even know what the wrong part was. What have I done?
What are we talking about?
Have you guys seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2 yet?
I have.
Yeah, it's really good, eh? Like
haven't
from the
seen it.
moment from the moment it has in
let's-
the opening sequence
let's actually-
to Mr. Blue Sky,
I got an
was,
idea.
I was hooked. I was in.
Let's take a look at the updated. Let's take a look at the updated standings. I think now that we've got a couple of extra maps on there as well. So Blank obviously haven't played yet. They're going to be playing after this match. Still sitting right at the top there. AHQ picked up a match against Flash Wolves last night. Puts them above Flash Wolves. No surprises. Now, interestingly, Machi have really picked up and put themselves on top. If Hong Kong Attitude, it's more like a win now because they're already 2 up. They're looking great. I would say Hong Kong Attitude beating DeToNator now puts them back up against Machi. So the only real shift so far is AHQ and Flash Wolves.
Yeah, I feel like there are two things that need to be seen between Machi and Hong Kong Attitude. First is going to be that Hong Kong Attitude Machi match itself. The second one is going to be, can Hong Kong Attitude do what Machi have done and beat Firewolves, Flash Wolves and AHQ? That's important.
You're somber. You want to beat the firewall.
Beat the Firewall. I said Firewolves.
Firewolves?
Yeah, because I got Dire Wolves and Flash Wolves mixed up. That wasn't very good.
Firewolves.
Yeah, Firewolves.
That sounds like a pretty.
Which is
freaking
a
team.
way cooler name. I'm just going
By
to give
the
that one
way,
out there. Like,
by
they
the
can keep the same acronym. You could just be Firewolves. That would be sick. Because it's a wolf,
Okay.
but it's on
So
fire. How
Hong
do you
Kong-
even beat that?
So Hong Kong Attitude have picked their map now. It is going to be Hanamura. Notably, this is the map that they beat Blank on. So no real surprises for me.
The convenient thing as well is if that Omnic comes out of the sea in Korea, it's a much shorter trip for Diva than going all the way from the UK. She can just sort of hop over the sea of Japan and come back, and like right there, back to the fight, back to the game.
Team probably needs her. I mean,
Yeah, oh yeah.
seeing as Yoshiharu is
Very crucial component.
the very crucial part of.
That's actually what's
DeToNator.
happening. When he wasn't there, like defending Saihade or like catching K4 off to the side, like he was in Korea stopping the kaiju. That's what that was.
Are there no other pilots? Like Diva has to.
He was the only one.
We need you again. You
I
have
mean,
to-
Well, no.
it has to be you. I'm sorry.
our other pilots are bronze.
In the lore, they did actually get like.
Oh yeah. They've
hundreds
got
of
a whole
pilots,
bunch.
like-
They've got a whole bunch, but like.
And they're all gamers.
But Diva's the only one that matters, apparently. Like Diva's the only one that was good enough for Overwatch.
And they're all.
She's the one that
gamers.
gets the most viewers on Twitch.
Can you imagine? That's actually.
I mean,
that's
that's actually her lore.
Overwatch are all sitting there like, man, we really need to bring up our PR. I know. Let's bring in a popular Twitch streamer. It was either Diva or Ice Poseidon, and they were like Diva.
Or Lucio. I mean, not Twitch streamer really, but like he's pretty popular. Although he's not technically on Overwatch.
No. Well,
Diva's not
when-
technically on Overwatch.
Actually, I guess she's not. Yeah.
No, she's just.
She's like
a-
19.
Something I actually related to King's Row. I kind of wanted to bring up that I thought was quite interesting. is
Okay, sure.
neither-
Yeah. This is a trip back in time. Here we go.
Trip straight back into
Through
the
the
point.
magic of television, we've gone back
neither
in time.
Neither team actually defended second checkpoint. Neither team actually defended the second cap in any regard. Both teams got fully pushed out of the streets phase with no relevant defense. I think Hong Kong Attitude had a slightly more relevant defense, but it was more like a hurdle than anything. It was
It
like,
was different
I just need
ways.
to step over this, but realistically,
Okay,
it wasn't anything.
the only thing is, I feel like there are two things we can take away from that, right? The first is, like you said, it was only a hurdle, but that is more than what DeToNator mustered.
Yeah.
So for DeToNator, it was like, here. But for Hong Kong Attitude, it was like, no.
That's what it was?
They're like, you're not getting past, and then just got slapped, like absolutely pimp slapped out of the way, right? That's
So-
what that was like. Like at least they actually knew how to put up a fight, even if it was
But the
not a
difference
good
is
enough fight.
DeToNator gave that to them. Like when DeToNator took the first cap, I said, if DeToNator get aggressive now, they should get aggressive. They can get a lot of ground off this. They can prevent Hong Kong Attitude from setting themselves up in the defensive position. Similar to what Hong Kong Attitude did to them on their attack, DeToNator didn't do that, which gave Hong Kong Attitude the ability to get the setup done. Now, what's interesting is, what I find to be the most critical thing out of all of this is that Hong Kong Attitude, even after being given the opportunity to set up a defense, got completely walked over regardless. And that shouldn't have happened.
Let's talk
Real
about
surprise.
Hanamura. Let's talk about the future.
And why are there no kaijus attacking Hanamura? It has to be Korea.
There's
That's
Om
because they
Zilla
dealt
there.
with it. They actually killed it. They didn't just let it go back into the sea. They
Oh,
finished
right.
the job. Which
let's
sea?
find out if DeToNator can
I wanna
finish the job against
I want to
Hong
know
Kong
which
Attitude,
sea
because
it went
still-
into. Because if it went into the Sea of Japan, it could also attack Japan. But if it went to the other side, it could just go to China instead. So it could still attack Hanamura. You never know. Wouldn't that just be a
don't know
twist,
that. I
eh?
don't know
We're
that.
halfway through this match, and then suddenly a
don't know.
giant
Whoa.
Omnic
Hang on.
comes out of the sea.
We're actually getting into the match
let's,
now.
so let's go ahead and actually...
We'll get back to you
we,
soon,
We
Spike.
can't talk about the future, we're just going to talk about the now as we head over to Hanamura. Well, there is a diva. What are you doing?
The game started, so it is going to be the dive composition coming out of Hong Kong Attitude with the Discord as well from Mango Giant. Now for DeToNator, they still want to play this double hit scan, and already I want to say they've given up the front door.
Yep, they just kind of backed off from it. I mean, this is actually something we've seen DeToNator do. Every time really they're on assault, they actually cede the most defensible position, and they're just getting stomped here. What is this?
And this is the problem with running when you have a very shield-based composition, which is exactly what DeToNator have now, specifically because they have the double hit scan as well. Samurai D and the Ryan Shield is their best chance to really get the mileage out of those two DPSs. Samurai D was the first one killed, and he got killed fast. Hong Kong Attitude dived him. It looked like he didn't have support. It looked like everyone had either just left him or Samurai D just stayed when he shouldn't have stayed. Either way, he got taken down fast. Both hit scan DPSs were in a terrible position after that.
Okay, so crucially here, Hong Kong Attitude have also actually made some swaps, so there isn't really an opportunity for Snowball here, unless they just get a crazy fight where they kill everyone, but that is quite unlikely. DeToNator do have a bit of a chance.
Yeah, so
to
Hong
dig
Kong
it.
Attitude, Hong Kong Attitude have actually given away a couple of the ults that they charged, or a couple of the charges. But this is a strategy Hong Kong Attitude are quite comfortable with, and now look at that.
A ting.
ting, that was a bit risky.
Misposition, yeah. So Hardy pumped a ton of shots into him to open it up, and then a Ting kind of whiffed his own retreat and got collapsed upon. So that's ult charge in the pocket of DeToNator, crucially on Saihade, and Hong Kong Attitude lose a bit of time.
Hong Kong Attitude have really lost. They lost momentum and time because of the compositional swaps. I would have preferred them to have actually played the original composition, get the ult charges up, and try for an engage where they have a massive advantage through ultimates. They don't have that anymore. This is going to be
All right,
I like the attack visor coming up for
I do like this move though by Hong Kong Attitude. They are trying to force DeToNator onto the point, but the rest of the team did not actually follow up a Ting. He was just kind of left alone on the ground there. And again, giving up a ton of ult charge here, not exactly in a position to use any of their own. They need to draw some out of DeToNator, but DeToNator know they've already won this fight. They don't actually need to commit ults. Hong Kong Attitude have to retreat.
And Hong Kong Attitude, their win condition is they have to get onto that top ledge. Where Yoshiharu's holding now, Hong Kong Attitude had to break that, and again, they
Who's
will
gonna
try
dive
and
it?
break that.
They've got no divers here.
Well,
So,
actually,
like,
smartly, they're going to go in the battlements instead.
yeah, this is definitely correct here. Anakin going to open up with a Dragon Blade, trying to find something, but Saihade up on the high ground, still totally uncontested. He is just going to be able to wait out the sound barrier and keep doing damage. Like I said, no divers. Oh, no such luck. K4 opens right up, and actually that's going to be enough to kind of tip the balance here, especially if you can do with this Winston. Not so much as the ultimate comes out. They're drawing this one out though, Hong Kong Attitude, and with those two ultimates, they've drawn pretty much everything out of DeToNator. Saihade may even commit the tactical visor now here just to secure this one, and yes, he is. That's going to be the last ultimate that DeToNator could have had
Straight
available.
into Matrix
Yeah, Hong Kong Attitude Yeah, half of it into Matrix, but Hong Kong Attitude can just absorb this, back up now, and re-engage with the fight with ultimate advantage. That's all they needed to get out of that one. They need to not go too far now, though.
And Hong Kong Attitude, they got the original kill on Saihate, but they didn't get enough after that. They sort of...
No, they got everything they needed. They got all the ultimates out.
Did they? Because there's still a couple of ultimates left for DeToNator, and
Okay, Anakin has been able to get his back up because Hong Kong Attitude didn't retreat quick enough. They then decided, all right, let's go for the fight now, rather than actually regrouping and going for the fight, which was a mistake. But off the back end of that fight, Hong Kong Attitude had built up 2 ultimates, crucially here on Shaolin and Jin Kao, as you can see, and the only thing DeToNator actually had was the Lave. Now they've got Anakin's back up, and will soon have Dodlov's, which Hong Kong Attitude wouldn't have had to deal with.
still 17.4%, I think, is not really been enough for Hong Kong Attitude for how much early success they had on that original push, particularly in terms of how many ultimates they managed to get out. Yeah, this needs to be a little bit more, but Anakin with his new ultimate gets shut down. The second time K4 shuts down someone in the middle of an ult.
So Hardy's still uncontested on this high ground.
Where's the cap?
Yeah, he is starting to swing back. Now they're going to get onto this low ground to try and start contesting.
See if Saihate can get much done on the floor here, though. Ultimate's really coming online for Hong Kong Attitude in a big way. So Hong Kong Attitude still not getting a huge amount of cap done, 21.3. Well, they got 4%. They're making these commits and they're only getting a little bit at a time. And the important thing is they haven't gotten a mileage. They haven't got a milestone cap yet on the third. That's their biggest sort of letdown so far with every single push they've had.
And couple of ultimates in the pocket for Hong Kong Attitude. They should be able to win if they commit well. Here we go, opening up with the Nano Visor combo. Dodlov is out. That is a bit of a late sound barrier here now. The dive trying to come in to deal with the attacking side, but they're not going to get anything for it. K4 staying safe, and now they're going to be able to commit to the ground game. They need to be able to close out a few more, though. They haven't actually got enough yet. The tactical visor out of Saihate. He does go down right towards the end here, and they still haven't killed anyone. Now only just starting to get the kills back. Yoshiharu getting a bit of mileage with the self-destruct there. This is still... Actually, no, I'm not going to say this is anyone's fight. This is still actually DeToNator's fight because Hong Kong Attitude didn't get the rest of the kills they needed. DeToNator, they only barely held on, but that's all you need to do when you have the defender's advantage.
And I think K4 really struggled to find targets, you know, the K4 effect. He really struggled to find targets with the tactical visor.
Who's in my sights?
Is somebody please get in my sight? Because Samurai D immediately put down his barrier as well. And K4, I want to say luckily, but, you know, opportunistically found Doctor who just sort of appeared for him, but that was the only kill he got out of tactical visor. Really, it wasn't enough. They committed 2 ults for that. Got the 1 kill. Hong Kong Attitude, they've now got 56%, so they are getting steadily more and more progress, but very expensive for them. They use a lot of ults. This could be a much better opening, but they got to convert kills extremely
They have
quickly.
to get the rest, and this is a weakness we see of every single team. Even when they get the 1 pick, they get the advantage. They don't get more. And now losing CQB with the respawns coming in for DeToNator, again, Hong Kong Attitude should actually just back off. That is the right thing to do, but they're going to draw this fight out. They're still looking for a way they can commit, when what they should really do is regroup, and now they're paying for it.
They're losing a lot of time. They are getting more caps. Somehow they managed to get 74.3. So for DeToNator, where they needed to be able to prevent. They won that last fight so hard. I feel like they committed members onto the actual. They committed members onto the. DeToNator committed members onto the Hong Kong Attitude attackers. However, someone managed to get additional cap out. 74.3 is actually a winnable position for Hong Kong Attitude to now push out.
Well, hopefully. They're kind of coming into this a little bit even in the ultimates. I mean, that favors DeToNator purely because of the defender's advantage. I mean, it doesn't even matter which ultimates are more or less impactful, though I will at least say CQB closer to his sound barrier could be the difference here. That is a great Matrix, totally negating these 2 ultimates out. He can't get anywhere, any damage at all, because the Matrix is all around him. This is all ultimates being committed now for no mileage out of Hong Kong Attitude. All they had left was the self-destruct, which was something they wanted to hold on to for later. CQB, no, he's not even going to get out of this with his life. That is quite a few committed for DeToNator, but they are fine with that. With 15 seconds left on the clock, this should be a hold.
This is a huge difference to Hong Kong Attitude, sorry, for DeToNator on the first checkpoint. DeToNator, who kind of let themselves get rolled over very quickly. A full holdout on the second cap is very good for DeToNator now.
Yep. Pretty much did it there. I mean,
can't disagree with that.
I would say especially respective of the first point, yeah. So
In comparison,
Yeah.
it's a massive tournament.
the only thing is, I don't know how much I can credit DeToNator with that defense, because I do feel like there were really several times Hong Kong Attitude should have backed off. But even if they were waiting to regroup, they were waiting to regroup in DeToNator territory. That is never going to work. It's just never going to work. It's not even going to work if you are miles better than the other team. Like, you would have to be, you know, like Grandmaster versus Plat for that to work. It's just not going to work. So Hong Kong Attitude refusing to back up lost themselves an otherwise potentially winnable game. I don't say guaranteed win, because DeToNator could have still pulled something out and done something well, but that was Hong Kong Attitude losing the game for themselves, not DeToNator beating them.
I still think for Hong Kong Attitude, the biggest mistake was changing their composition when they should have kept the snowball momentum going with their original composition with K4 on the Genji. Now, one of the biggest advantages, this is what we saw in the AHQ versus Flash Wolf series on, I believe it was Anubis, where it's now a lot more difficult to win an entire push off your initial starting push. It's quite rare, but for Hong Kong Attitude, I truly believe if they had kept the momentum going, because they had won that first cap so quickly and so easily and so much damage, they would have had the ultimate percentage to charge up way quicker than the other side and actually get at least 1/3, if not 2/3 milestone, which would have put themselves in a much better position way earlier on.
Well, and even just in the most basic sense, the comp they changed onto had nothing to deal with Saihari on the high ground. They didn't know Saihari was on the high ground until after that, but had they kept on that same comp, just, you know, even by a sheer stroke of luck, they would have had a Genji to contest it. They would have had an ultimate out of the, out of the Tracer to maybe pick up a quick pick, but let's see if DeToNator can break this first point as handily as Hong Kong Attitude.
Hong Kong Attitude need to have a really good time on the first checkpoint. That's
They've
going to
given
give
up the door as well.
They have given up the door, but they haven't given up any members yet. Critically, that's important to note. So Hong Kong Attitude, if they still get the first pickups, if they still get the first couple of kills, they will be able to get a turnaround extremely quickly.
Yeah, what they've done by this positioning, actually, they've kind of drawn DeToNator in so that they can separate them, but it hasn't worked because now DeToNator have been given just enough room to collapse. They've picked off one to start it off with. Yoshiharu's out of the mech, which could result in a kill, but honestly, the rest of DeToNator, this collapse is going well enough. Now picking off K4, that is going to be the open up. Hong Kong Attitude, smart move, but they didn't execute at the right time, and they gave DeToNator all the room they needed to go in for their collapse.
Now look at the ultimates. We've got a lot of 80, we've got 380% here. DeToNator, if they don't change up their composition, they should be able to snowball really hard into Hong Kong Attitude. A very similar situation to what Hong Kong Attitude had last time around. I don't want DeToNator to change anything here. They need to go in with this, and they can get a lot of cap. Like I said, 1/3, if not 2/3.
They certainly have the ultimates for it, and this Dragon Blade should be enough to open it up in the squishies. The dive from Samurai D didn't quite finish off, but CQB to start that one out. Yeah, this should actually be pretty achievable for DeToNator. Anakin, even without finding much more, because they got a couple of kills there. They're starting to close them out. Losing Delay isn't really a big deal for them here, and Samurai D has the ultimate, so he can just buy himself more time on the point. They don't even need to really pick off many more members here, but they do want to secure kills if they can so help it.
They're losing
Samurai
members
D,
themselves.
yeah, Samurai D actually failed to ult. That could have actually bought them a lot of mileage there and a lot more cap time. They could have at least bought themselves the third, but because they didn't, they're going to lose all of the progress they've really got, and now they don't have the ultimate advantage.
So close as well, 26.9%. If they had gotten that 1/3, this would all have been worth it, despite losing
Actually,
the
sorry,
cap.
I did lie. They do have the ultimate advantage, but Hong Kong Attitude have now a bit of a chance to
I
find
think
their
what
feet.
you said as well for Samurai D not committing ultimate there was definitely a mistake. They needed to commit all their ultimates to get as much cap as they could have. This was going to be the only time in the game where they have a clear-cut advantage that they know 100% that Hong Kong Attitude are definitely behind.
And now here comes another commit, but it's a bit of a half-hearted one. They're trying to kind of take out K4, sort of looking to move around the side. They're just looking to get a pick. They're not even quite sure what as they commit the Transcendence as well. Yeah, they've got the pick now, having committed a ton of resources. Shaolin going to throw out the self-destruct to try and at least force them off the point. Gets delayed, but that's not really enough. The self-destruct in response is going to get a lot more work done as Shaolin out of the mech. Should be plenty of space for DeToNator if they can close out more kills. Yeah, Dragon Blade out. K4 going to look to find a lot with it. Samurai D is a pretty good way to start it off, and the Nanabu is committed to him as well. Having a gentleman's duel against his opponent, Genji, works out for him actually as Anakin goes down, and DeToNator, after committing all the ultimates, didn't get the one or two few more crucial picks, and again, have failed to even so much as get a third.
That's really important because they haven't managed to get the 33% again, just like you said. Out of every single one of these pushes, they need to be able to secure a little bit more cap every single time. They don't have that much to go. 75.3, 75.5 is not that unreachable. In fact, that's very winnable for them. That's just a little bit over 2/3 of the way. And I've said already, if they get a big advantage, they can get 2/3 off one push.
But they've already had times where they've had big advantages. They've actually had that the last 2 fights, and both times they've failed to execute. They've used their resources either too early, too late, or not at all.
Now they are struggling to get those resources back. They do change up a little bit of the composition, losing Delaby early as well. The only ultimate that they even have. They're gonna have to wait. This is K4 just picking up kill after kill after kill, and all of this time is time that DeToNator can't afford to lose.
Jinkao did use his ultimate, so DeToNator did at least draw that one out of Hong Kong Attitude, who have ultimate advantage over them, but in that same time, Hong Kong Attitude have built up K4s and will be able to get Shaolins as well. So, I mean, it doesn't even really matter that Jinkao used his.
K4, Hong Kong Attitude, happy to just wait for a little bit, 3 minutes and 30. They're sitting in a pretty decent position, got the ultimate advantage, waiting to see what DeToNator are going to do with this. And like I said, DeToNator are wasting a lot of time here. The longer they just sort of fluff around, these are all additional pushes. These are all additional pushes that they could be using.
Gonna go ahead and commit to the fight now. K4, wow, big open up on Dodlock. Even if he doesn't find any more, that's enough to force DeToNator back. And now they're starting to clean the floor as DeToNator on the retreat. Minimal resources used once again.
Shouldn't have gone for the kill. That's more.
DeToNator may be able to get a bit of an ultimate advantage here this time, but they've run down the clock so much, they need to get a massive, massive fight.
2 minutes and 47 left to go as well is a really difficult thing to sort of deal with. But that was a really little interesting pickup at the end there. I didn't expect Anakin to get a kill with the Hog. In fact, I don't think he should have gone for the heal. If he died a little bit quicker, he would have fed less ult. At the same time, though, getting the kill into K4 does put himself up a little bit. DeToNator have had a long time waiting now, a long time of waiting and no pushing. They are getting the ults. They have 4 ults. They need to have something to show for all of this patience they've had, which, to be honest, has not been working out.
Well, that could be a good way to go, but they're not able to follow up on that Earth Shatter at all. It's really just useless. They've still got ultimate advantage, though, and they did peel back enough that they can just come back on this fight, but they still need to find an angle. They haven't actually found an angle yet. A Chin going down could be all they need, and Saihade on this high ground is going to force out the sound barriers. He commits his tactical visor. Nano boost as well, just on the back end of the tac visor. They get CQB, but they've not really got anything else out of Hong Kong Attitude just yet, who are still sitting on defender's advantage. And the self-destructs both coming through. Only one getting one, and oh, that's a great Earth Shatter out from the defense. The team finding everything they need. And DeToNator, they're going to lose everything they had built up in this fight purely because they did not get the kills once again.
And with 135 left, I don't think they're going to have they're not going to have a chance to really get a big build-up. They're going to have maybe 2 fights out of this. They got 1 fight to build ults back up, which then gives Hong Kong Attitude a chance to build ults back up again as well.
They're now relying on Hong Kong Attitude to make a mistake.
So realistically, they're not going to get ahead of Hong Kong Attitude again. They're going to be playing on neutral ground with Hong Kong Attitude for the rest of the 1 minute left. And if history will tell anything, they're still at a point where they haven't got a third, they haven't got a single milestone on the cap, and to get to 75.5, it's starting to look a lot more unachievable.
Hong Kong Attitude still looking pretty happy on the hold here. Already pressuring out Dodolov. That's all they're really going to need for this. I mean, Anakin getting K4 doesn't matter because of that defender's advantage. The respawns will come in, and Jinkao on this high ground is absolutely routing them. They've got Yoshiharu out of the mech. DeToNator, even if they are getting the kills on these divers, aren't able to get onto the point, aren't able to strike back, and they have to retreat to go for another fight, and they're running out of time.
It's going to be a fight at about 30 seconds left to go. Got to wait for respawners as well. So this isn't going to be a fight for DeToNator. This is just going to be them scrambling to get on the actual cap itself, force the overtime. And without a single milestone of the cap, I don't know that they're going to get the actual cap itself. They're relying on a miracle here because Hong Kong Attitude ults are coming online for DeToNator. Yeah, they got a couple as well, but one more time, they're not playing on advantage. They're just on even footing with Hong Kong Attitude, and they haven't even been beating Hong Kong Attitude with an advantage, let alone on even footing.
Well, here we go, and already the open out from Hong Kong Attitude onto the members of DeToNator that were already in, because the rest weren't in position yet, which means Saihari and Dodlop get nothing for the ultimates they commit. Saihari has spent the entire time retreating, and the last two members of DeToNator on the point are going to get cleaned up like specks of dust.
And like I said, DeToNator, a team that cannot close out the game no matter how far ahead they are, no matter how much advantage they have, failure to complete the victory. It's been their entire story, not just this match, not even just the series, but the whole tournament, the entire 4 weeks that we've been in here. DeToNator, time and time again, a repeat story, cannot close out a game.
And, you know, sat at the top of this second round robin, you don't want to be making the same mistakes as first time around. I mean, the whole point is you're meant to have learned from what went wrong first time around, that you don't repeat it. The other teams actually have started learning. I mean, Matchy are a shining example of that, right? Hong Kong Attitude as well have cleaned up a couple of things from the first round robin. That'll really get tested against other teams in this tournament, sure, but DeToNator haven't done anything, it looks like. Nothing seems to have changed, and that is a fast-track ticket to being out.
And I just want to quickly say as well, they have had the opportunity to win. I don't think this was a totally unwinnable matchup for them. There were moments there where DeToNator could have pulled one out, but failed time again to actually do that.
And also, like, I mean, if we're just talking about the last map on Hanamura, right? Assault is one of the maps where you most have to leverage your advantage when you're ahead. I mean, just as we saw, using the snowball to go into the second point and actually get a very, very clean team wipe on the enemy team, making sure they're all gone at the same time and then not losing anyone on the respawn advantage. And that whole time, you're using your advantage, you're ahead, and you were talking about that. DeToNator are not able to close games, they're not able to utilize their advantage.
Even when they're ahead.
And that is exactly what you need on Assault, and it's a prime example of where it doesn't work.
Yeah, to kind of speak to the other side of that though, I mean, we already know why DeToNator struggled here, and it's the same reason they've lost their matches so far, like through and through. The other side of that though has of course been Hong Kong Attitude, and they made a ton of mistakes, a ton of costly mistakes on their own push as well. I mean, by rights, they were in position to cap in a lot of situations, but I feel they never actually gave DeToNator the respect for Hong Kong Attitude to just back off. So with that in mind, do we feel Hong Kong Attitude can actually now take it to the other teams, like what we were talking about earlier when looking at the standings, like Matchy and even like Flash Wolves and AH?
I think Flash Wolves,
Assault just going to be a big weakness.
I think Flash Wolves are kind of wounded here, so Hong Kong Attitude have the ability to take it against them. But one of the biggest problems will be now, one of the biggest hurdles for Hong Kong Attitude, I think, might actually be Matchy now, who are on an insane
They're on a hot streak.
rise. So if Matchy beat out Hong Kong Attitude, and I think that's a real possibility in this set of round robins, Hong Kong Attitude suddenly lose a commanding spot where they were once breaking that top three and now just trying to get back their position off Matchy.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Hong Kong Attitude and how they were the gatekeeper of the top four, and that was the case before this weekend started and everything just blew up, right? With Matchy, with their victory against Flash Wolves, just turned everything upside down. AHQ as well, beating out the Flash Wolves. So now the question is, like you said, can Matchy beat Hong Kong Attitude? Because last time we saw them playing against each other, Hong Kong Attitude very handily won a 3-0. But then again, the same was said when Matchy last played Flash Wolves. That was a 3-0 very heavily in the favor of Flash Wolves, and look how that turned out. So Matchy, I feel like they've been playing incredibly, not just last night, but today as well. So next time they meet Hong Kong Attitude, that's going to be a match that is going to decide so much.
I just want to say, based off this performance against DeToNator so far, I don't know if I'm convinced Hong Kong Attitude have the chops to really break into that top three yet. I think for Hong Kong Attitude, the fact that the conversation is, hey, DeToNator were ahead and they lost, why DeToNator ahead? How did DeToNator get ahead of Hong Kong Attitude? That's a problem in and of itself for Hong Kong Attitude. Now, if Hong Kong Attitude want to break into top three, this should have been an extremely easy 3-0 series. It was a 3-0 series, but I don't think they took it easily. I think there were difficult times in there for them. In fact, times when DeToNator seriously challenged that victory and seriously challenged them for the game, and it was more so DeToNator's inability to close out the game, more so than I thought it was Hong Kong Attitude just being the dominant team, so to say.
And indeed, the closest series we've seen Hong Kong Attitude play in so far was against AHQ, who at the time were the third team. So if you're looking at breaking into the top 3, you have to beat them as Hong Kong Attitude. They won 2 good games, had a tight game on Assault, and then had 2 more tight games, which they both lost. And Assault was where that balance got tipped in favor of AHQ. So without wanting to pin the game time specifically as an endemic weakness, we can still say there is a history of Hong Kong Attitude not actually closing it out effectively on that map when otherwise they maybe should have. And I feel like we've seen a bit of a similar thing here despite the 3-0. So, actually you seem like you have something
Yeah,
to say
maybe
here.
I'm almost thinking now that the Hong Kong Attitude versus Blank game might have been just another outlier where Blank underperformed, the other team does take some sort of advantage, but still cannot actually beat Blank. It's just like, well, Blank are looking not as hot.
Yeah, had that been Flash Wolves against Blank on that particular day with Blank looking a little bit off form, I can't help but feel like Flash Wolves were a team that would have won, and we do have to respect that Hong Kong Attitude still did. And I even recall during that game talking about the mistakes that Hong Kong Attitude were also making. And if we can say of DeToNator that they haven't cleaned up mistakes coming into the second round robin, then I think it's fair to say the same of Hong Kong Attitude. And should we agree?
Yeah, I would say, to start things off, when you compare the difference in improvement when you look at Machi, realistically, how are they able to put themselves this much further up when Hong Kong Attitude, who should have been ahead of Machi, have not? So that's interesting.
I mean, let's remember that Machi were just fending off the 2 Japanese teams tonight. And yeah, that's great. But I mean, they also did very, very handily 3-0 them. They did not look like they had any trouble at all. Hong Kong Attitude, though, against DeToNator, while it was still a 3-0, seemed like there were some issues there. I mean, for example, Machi full held against DeToNator on the first point of King's Row. Not the same story for Hong Kong Attitude. In fact, they went to Time Bank.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a really good point. And also, I suppose we have to keep in mind, right, we haven't actually seen any of these teams consistently. It's only been 2 days of this second round robin. We've seen Machi a lot, which is why we can say all these things about them. And we've seen DeToNator now twice, which isn't really much of a pool to draw from. So Hong Kong Attitude we've seen once, Flash Wolves, AHQ, we've all just seen them once so far, right? So we do also have a little bit of limited evidence, I feel, for the second round robin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we do have limited evidence, but it's from what we have got so far, what we can sort of gather, and based on results from the first round robin as well. Hong Kong Attitude so far, are they a team that are looking like they can keep their top 4 spot? I say they're going to be heavily challenged for that, particularly by Machi. What I think is going to be really interesting though is Hong Kong Attitude aside, the other team that was sort of down there with Machi was Fireball, who were ahead of Machi, and now Fireball are going to have an opportunity now to play against Blank, which I believe is going to be an extremely difficult game for them, a game that I would put my money on Blank. However, what I'm really looking for from Fireball is what has been their rate of improvement, especially versus a team like Machi, because Machi have now in the spot where they've overtaken Fireball as well.
Yeah, so I suppose to sort of shift focus now onto that, we might as well just take a bit of a look forward, I feel. Fireball, we felt were up on the up and up towards the end of that first round robin there. So even though Blanca probably still expected to win, what might Fireball actually need to do? We'll actually jump back to this question in a moment. I can see your beaming smile, because we do have the interview coming up.
It's going to be with Mango Jai, the captain.
我其实有注意到，在每一场比赛胜利结束之后，你都会跟 K4 击掌，可是其他队友都不会这样，只有你们就一结束就会这样，然后这样击掌一下。
因为我跟他是输出跟辅助的位置，有我安拿的大绝也是给七六，就是跟 KK 会配的比较多。那所以我们每一次配好了，然后打赢那场，我们就会或者输赢也好，我都会跟他击掌鼓励大家。
我知道有一种说，刚刚配合的不错这种感觉。
对。
那因为刚刚我在上一队的时候访问有提到，我有问说像。 辅助安娜的话，因为大绝的关系需要配合输出位嘛，那你比较是主导的，就是你说，哎，我有大绝了，我等下开给你，就要直接开，还是你要等待输出手下命令给你？
我是 HKA 里面是担任就是 Cola 这个地位，那每一波我们都是先讨论好，就是先配好说下一波会战是谁开，然后他们一打进来或者我们要先打他们，那我们就配一波，因为一开始会先沟通好。
哎，所以你这边反而是主导权比较在你身上，对不对？
对。
哦，所以也不会有默契不好的问题。反正就大家听你的就对了。那再来是聊到残压塔的部分，因为残压塔其实在联赛中是死亡率最高的，因为它很容易被针对，然后皮又很薄。那我想想看，这一周你感觉都还蛮稳的，你自己有队友给你什么帮助吗？
主要我和尚的就是死亡数比较低的原因，其实就是队友的配合啦，就是队友保护的我好，就 CQB 的路修保护的我好啊，还有我们玩和尚的时候也有分几个战术，然后那些战术也会提高到我的就是生存率，还有进攻的速度，所以就可以这样。
好，战术部分不能透露啦，但是反正就是会保护，很紧张，我不会问他好吗？那再来是残压塔，应该是蛮怕刺客的，那你们要怎么去抗刺客啊？
就是路修，就是 CQB 的路修保护我保护好，
你一定要待在他旁边。
对。
然后再来是刚刚最后一场刚花村的地方，我们看到第一点，我跟阿生在讨论说，哎，好像被破的有点快耶。
是一开始阵容有点没太好了，还有就是我们不应该放他们进来打的，他们已经包着我们了。那时候其实我们有点没有那么好优势，他们已经包着我们来打，我们在中间，然后他们刺客就会可以吃我们。
所以被打乱了。
对。
有点可惜，不过好险后来还是有守住了。那再来在上次访问中，因为 Blank Esports 现在是我们联赛中还没有输过的嘛，那他说了，他觉得 HK 感觉好像比闪电狼更强，这个方面你自己是怎么看呢？
我不敢说自己对比闪电狼强啊，但是我们对每一个比赛都会尽力打得好。
非常的谦虚哦。那接下来明天要对上 Blank 了，上次你们差一点点就可以让他们吃到一败了，怎么样？明天有没有信心？
信心一定有啊，但是明天可以赢还是输，就看我们明天的状况。
好啦，那祝福你们明天手气好一点喽。那我们这边进一段广告。
我还有一句话想说。
好，请说。
就是我是香港人。谢谢大家，就是一直来都支持我，然后希望大家可以投我一票，香港。
好了，
芒果仔，
大家帮我们的芒果仔给点掌声好不好？非常谦虚的选手。那我们这边进段广告回来之后还会有。
Okay, so that was pretty long, but believe it or not, I think I got all of it, like actually all of it. So
I don't believe it. Sorry.
So it started off with our hostess was saying, so it seems like you got a pretty good relationship with K4. Always seems like when the player cams are up, you're interacting with them some way. You're high-fiving, all that kind of stuff. And he's kind of saying, his response to that was, it's the dynamic of him being the support and K4 being the DPS. They work together quite a lot. And so there's a lot of team play that they in particular work with. Now, I want to kind of inject and say also these two are two members that have been on a team before as well. This wasn't part of his answer, but I want to just be able to add that K4 and Mango Jai came from the same team previously, which is called Bongme. So they have that sort of synergy and also, I guess, friendship coming in. Now, then they sort of asked about what the experience of his sort of Ana play now, and I guess he's playing a lot of Zenyatta as well, but how is he dealing with the DPSs? How is he dealing with getting dived on? Because a lot of teams are playing dive as well, and what's he doing to stay alive? And he's saying that CQB, his Lucio teammate, has done a great job of keeping him alive in particular, particularly with the boops, particularly with the additional healing and the mobility. That's what's been really keeping him alive now. The other question was stating about how they feel about going up against Flash Wolves, because the comment made was Blank in a previous interview have said that Hong Kong Attitude are now a team that is very competitive with Blank, and also specifically the hostess mentioned this. I don't know if this is accurate in terms of the RQT interview, but the hostess specifically mentioned that Blank said Hong Kong Attitude are a team that's better than Flash Wolves, and to that Mango said he's not too sure if he wants to say whether he thinks Hong Kong Attitude are better than Flash Wolves now. I guess they'll just find out when they play against Flash Wolves. And then to finish up, it was basically you will be going up against Blank again tomorrow. You had a really close series with them previously, do you think you're going to be able to close it out this time? And he sort of seemed kind of, he is looking forward to it, but I don't think he's in a position where he thinks they can close that out against Blank just yet. It's going to be an incredibly difficult series for his team nonetheless. And right at the end, he just kind of wanted to thank the crowd for supporting his team, but in particular because he's the only member from Hong Kong on his team, in a team that is otherwise entirely comprised of Taiwanese members. So he had to, much like a few of the other teams in the tournament, he had to travel out of his home to actually go to Taiwan to sort of live there and play. And so just wanted to thank the fans for the support, for supporting him as a foreign player, so to speak.
All right, well, there we go. That was Mango Jai's thoughts on their matchup just being against DeToNator.GOLD. A deserved win, though perhaps a slightly harder fought
Actually,
win
one
than we
more.
expected.
There was
Oh,
one
yeah,
more. There
go
was a
ahead.
question regarding specifically on Hanamura where the hostess said, "You guys lost the first checkpoint really quickly," and Mango said, "Yeah, we let them through those opening gates a bit too easily, and they sort of just surrounded us in the DPSs, got a lot of free roam, and we got caught out there." So we actually talked about that in the cast where it looked like Hong Kong Attitude actually just let the doors open, and Mango Jai said that was a mistake on their part.
Yeah, and giving not just space, but just a little bit too much space before they executed themselves.
Yeah.
But in any case, yeah, kind of interesting to hear his thoughts on the matchup as a whole. But that is going to kind of put a lid on that one. Like we said, maybe a slightly tighter win than we were expecting, but a win nonetheless, something Hong Kong Attitude can be happy about as they move further forward in this tournament. We are going to go ahead and take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to have the Thai team Fireball taking on Australia's Blank Esports, so don't go anywhere.